Vigil to pay my respects to Charlie, and the only ones I've been able to find are way far away. And I would go to anything in honor of him. I don't care, even if it can be really religious. I don't care. I just want to do something. My apologies for this looking backwards. I've not been able to find a fix for this. This is not how I want things to look, obviously. Man, I guess I just want to be able to grieve and feel that I'm not alone and feel like we're sharing something big. When Charlie got martyred, which is basically what happened, probably tens of thousands of people aspiring to be like him were created. Charlie Kirk did not just inspire his fellow Christian conservatives. He inspired libertarians. He inspired all kinds of moderate people. He inspired people to think critically instead of just swallowing what they were being indoctrinated as truth. The funny thing about us human beings is that we can be really gullible and brainwashed and almost hypnotized by repeated certain platitudes or certain axioms or certain things that, while many people accept must be true, are anything but. Lies such as the allure of socialism, getting all kinds of free stuff, the government opening up free stores, letting the government just take care of you so that you don't have to go out and work and experience the dignity of experiencing the fruit of your own labors. So many things that it seems like half the country seem to think is a good idea, and it's really scary when either the oldest people believe these things or the youngest people believe these things. The oldest people, it's a tragedy when they believe and promulgate this stuff because they should know better. If you were a student of history at all and you knew anything about Venezuela or literally any government where the socialist experiment has ever been tried, there are some things that look good on paper, but you have to actually execute and implement the ideas into practice. And the problem, one of the many problems with socialism is, first of all, everybody knows what to do with other people's money. Everybody thinks, heck, I never went to business school, let alone Wharton, and I would like to think I would make a pretty good economist. And I say that just because I would do conservative investments, especially the older we get, the more conservative your investments should be, because you don't have the benefit of years and years and years to average out things like you would have to deal with the fluctuations of the stock market or any kind of speculative investments. If you want to invest in pork bellies or soybeans, on one hand, yes, you might be investing in farmers, but you're also, a speculative thing is kind of not too much different than gambling. And are you betting with the farmers or are you betting against the farmers? Hi, Meyer. Oh, by the way, Meyer, since you're on, I want to respond to something that you told me recently. I'm wanting friends in my life, and I'm looking for friends, people who have certain commonalities with, and political and philosophical is really big and important to me. So for that, I'm glad that you're my friend, and I would love to join forces with you. I respect your military service, I respect your politics, and I respect the fact that you're a fellow creator. And I really, something about people who are content creators, we understand life through a lens that few people do. Just like if you've ever been an actor, if you've ever been in any kind of showbiz, there are a lot of similar skills. Whenever a person feels a need to communicate, whether it be on camera or whether it be just being a voice, showing and talking about things that are important, and whatever their motivations are. Some people want to do things because they want to promulgate something bigger than themselves and they want to inspire a community and be part of a movement. Some people want to do self-promotion because they're hoping to be a star someday. Some people want to build up a legacy and a whole bunch of information for their heirs and their family. And let's face it, social media, if it's as forever, at least until whatever that platform is no longer exists. And then if you're lucky and your stuff is public, it will be scoured by these special bots that will cache what you have online, and they will put it in, these search engines will get it, and so you can live on. And I think many of us are looking for some form of immortality, especially now. I know there's people who, depending on if you're a person of faith. Okay, let's take the born-again Christians, for instance. They are sure that when they die, they're going to be with God forever and hang out with Jesus and saints and all that stuff. And it must be great to have that assuredness. Of course, and I don't mean to be devil's advocate here, and I'm not trying to be ironic in those words, it's just a saying. But I'm sure the devout Hindus believe that they're probably going to hang out with Krishna and Hanuman and Ganesha. And I'm sure if they're trying to discipline themselves to not be distracted by too much pleasure in the world, that Maya, materialism, if they're trying to not be distracted by Maya, so that instead of continually being born, growing old, dying, being reborn, going through that process over and over again. And I do believe that there may be some evidence, something to this reincarnation thing. Some Christians even go so far as to say that they think that when Jesus said you must be born again, that he may have been referencing that. There's lots of ways to interpret the Bible. Of course, some of you very devout Christians might be saying that what I'm saying is heresy. Please don't go after me. Don't come after me with pitchforks or matches or anything. I'd like to think that we've all evolved since the 1400s when you guys would burn people like me. Why don't we do the Ronald Reagan 80-20 thing, which is, if we're in mostly alignment with each other, we should join forces instead of looking for, well, you've got a few differences, therefore I don't want to be your friend, therefore you must be my enemy. And it's very important for those of us on the right, on the moderate to right side, not looking for ways to exclude each other, that if, okay, let's go back to Charlie. I might not have really responded to when he got religious, but almost everything else. Okay, there's the pro-choice part of me too, that, I would not, well, first of all, I'd be too scared to debate the guy anyway, because it seems to me that he is so comfortable with challenging people and making people think. And, if I ever had gotten to meet him, believe me, I wouldn't be dripping in pentagrams and all that stuff, because the last thing I would want is for somebody of his caliber and all his friends and everybody to think of me as evil in some way, when I really back most of him and the idea of him and him trying to bring our country back to where people appreciate where we came from and how we've evolved and improved as a force for good in the world. And just because I didn't get married and have kids, and so I didn't do my part, okay? And it's just because, maybe if 9/11 hadn't happened, maybe I would have gone that route. But, I thought it would take the right person to make me go that route. And there was a lot of things, fear I had in my life that made me put off to the idea of motherhood. And some of it was superficial stuff, like I don't want to be fat. I don't want to ruin my body for life. I don't want to look undesirable. I don't want to not be good for my career and all that stuff. Plus all the chromosomal damage that I probably did with all the drugs that I did. And my mother never encouraged me to try to pursue motherhood, because she honestly thought that I had been doing so much chromosomal damage, because believe me, I was the life of the party. And when I was in Los Angeles, I was chasing rock stars, writing poetry that I had no way of realizing was actually song lyrics, because I didn't have faith in my musical abilities. I knew a few chords, hadn't played since I was 14, 15 years old. And, I was focused on growing my nails and killing brain cells and documenting my life in my journals and stuff, which I'm so glad I did, because, you can't always trust your memory. It would be nice to be able to have photographic memory and remember things, but then again, because I never cease to be amazed when I reread old letters I wrote to my mom, and I'm thinking things that I had totally forgotten about, that I'm so glad that I did this. And sometimes when I would watch Charlie do his things, and he would be talking about family values and about finding yourself a good life partner and marrying and settling down. And there's a lot of people talking about how it's important for women to have children so that we keep our society going. And I realized I failed to do that. And now I never entertained the thought that there was any kind of societal duty. I never entertained any thought that I should consider compromising what I thought would make me happy for the greater good of the world. And I think that there are ways to, okay, you can improve the world by leaving wonderful, productive, talented, intelligent, caring, thoughtful children. That's a beautiful thing to contribute to the world, assuming your children are good. But you can easily give birth to a bad seed that ends up having to get put to death by a firing squad because he did something atrocious too. There are many ways of making the world a better place. I would think that pursuing an entertainment career and building up a platform so that you can talk to thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, inspire them with some good things, give people some ideas for just making the world a better place while not compromising your values, and finding ways to just find commonalities with other people so that we can get along. And again, getting back to Charlie, and one of the things that I find him very inspiring is him just being there as someone to challenge people with some of their preconceptions. And he was kind of like a Rush Limbaugh for a younger generation, and definitely losing him, you know, I never had my JFK. JFK died before I was born. And as far as Martin Luther King, the only time I heard about him was I had a kindergarten teacher who, again, I was not aware of him. She told us about him. And at the time, I didn't really relate to it because when I was going to the public school system, at first there were very few black people, and when there were, unfortunately, my experience with this mix of cultures, it was not a good one because I was bullied by people that didn't look like me. So I can't say that I had a whole lot of sympathy for the struggles of the 60s, because my own concept of my earliest childhood memories when I had to deal with other kids, they were not good ones, and the kids I saw were not good kids. And my parents had to actually take me out of the public schools for 7th and 8th grade, sent me to a Catholic school so I wouldn't get my ass beat. And the kids she was afraid of my getting my ass beat were not kids who looked like me. And I think you know what I'm saying here. So, 9/11 happened, and that forced me to come out here. And thank goodness for a platform like YouTube that I really do believe helped so many people to have a voice and to be able to express their truth, talk about their lives, share what they love, provide joy, provide entertainment, provide education, provide some fun. I try to do all of these things. And also, for those of us who feel comfortable documenting our lives, not all of us can get a reality TV show on VH1 or MTV or whatever, and plus, would you really want some agency editing things for plot line and misrepresenting what you say and stuff? I think it's better to have a channel and do little to no editing and just speak your truth, and certainly not let anybody else give you power over what you communicate. That is so important in this era where free speech is challenged and is under threat and people are afraid to speak. Now more than ever, I think it's really important for those people who say you are a showbiz professional like me, but say you're more successful than I am, and say you're building a channel, and say some agencies want to sign you. One of their requests is they want to have some say over what you say on social media. And that is something I'm deeply, deeply, deeply afraid of. I mean, I understand no agencies want you to embarrass them by saying things that might offend their sponsors or whatever, but I also believe that it's important to be able to speak about what you feel is right. I wouldn't want to lose a multi-million-dollar contract because I dared to say that, I don't see that there's any more than two genders, and if I was in my own locker room, I would be very traumatized if I saw something not like myself when people are showering, and I think you understand what I'm saying. And if that sounds like hate speech, well, gee, I guess you're going to have to put me in front of, well, no, I don't want to say that, because if I get too graphic with my hyperbole, I don't want to get in trouble. I have a bit of an announcement to make. A couple of hours ago, I came home. Now, you probably know that my computer is on the fritz. It's going to actually be taken. A friend of mine's going to come over tomorrow around noon, and he is going to take my computer to Best Buy, and he is going to see about getting some repairs done on it. So that means, and I don't know when I'm going to have it back, so that means I'm going to have make the cell phone useful somehow. There's a few things on here that I am willing to delete, such as that stupid whale video that I put on Instagram, but I don't remember if I put it on Facebook. It wasn't even something I cared all that much about, I must confess. I filmed it because one day when I was out on the beach, I ran across this thing, and I made a short little thing that I know some of the more ecologically minded people, and not to say that I don't care about ecology. Of course I want a clean planet. I'm just not one of these people that's advocating for nothing but the eradication of fossil fuels, and you got to use nothing but renewable energy. And what I know about windmills, for instance, that you can't recycle them after they're rusted and no good, and it's a more expensive kind of energy, and it actually costs more to generate than what is generated, so it's not a good deal. I know whenever they tried creating them offshore, they end up doing damage to marine life, especially the whales that people love so much. Now myself, I'm more of a sea lion and walrus and seal person. Oh, I love those seals. You ever look at a harbor seal? They're just the most precious fellas and girls. I love seals. And yeah, gas and oil, if you have, okay, I'm not a gearhead or anything, but I do like a mean sports car. All right. And I am pretty sure, unless somebody knows better, can prove me wrong, if you're needing to go from 0 to 60, only a real combustion engine can really get you fast. Say you needed to evacuate, some kind of emergency. Say the hills were on fire, for instance. Assuming you had a wide enough road that you could actually escape your routes. One of the things that makes me so angry about those fires we had recently, and right when I was trying to gallivant with my fellow GOPers when Trump was getting his inauguration, and we were freezing our etceteras and whatchamacallits off in Washington, D.C. Right about that time, the fires were going on in Southern California, and I have a very strong personal connection to the area because I lived like 18 years in Los Angeles pursuing the rock and roll thing, and I spent some time in San Francisco. And for all I know, if 9/11 hadn't happened and those projects I was working on had actually been successful, and then I got Taft-Hartley into bigger productions, and if you don't know what Taft-Hartley refers to, it's an actor thing that, say you're non-union and you're an actor and they want you for something, and normally you got to go and try to get as many union people as possible on a SAG production. And SAG, Screen Actors Guild, aligned with AFTRA, that's American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, if you didn't already know, but I'm sure you do. Well, if you get Taft-Hartley, then they pay for your way to get into the union, so that's a way to get cast in something if you're non-union. And a lot of times, all you have to do is ask for it, and that increases your chance of getting it. Anyway, the reason why I'm bringing this up is, say 9/11 hadn't happened and I'd gotten even a taste of success in show business, I probably would have bought my first house, and I probably would have loved the Pacific Palisades area because it's kind of close to the water. It's not inner city, so you don't have to worry about some of the gang issues that I witnessed when I was in Hollywood. You have a little gang called MS-13. You've got little gangs from Venezuela and from Mexico City and lots of Spanish-speaking gangs. And I'm sure they got way worse than they did when I was there. And, you don't want to visibly mess with gangs because their retribution is pretty evil, and they don't care if you're a woman. They'll, do things. And I'm sure with all this anti-ice fever, I'm sure that people like me have to kind of take a little bit more of a low profile there. For all I know, maybe the blacklist would actually keep me out of a lot of productions unless I worked for Christian productions, of which that is a growing segment. Even though if they find out that I wear a pentagram, they might decide that they don't want me either. And that sucks, because if they only knew that I want to align with people that otherwise I agree with, I don't believe in religious discrimination. I'm not trying to promulgate any kind of violence or any kind of miscreancy. I don't have time for that. Even though I was supposed to be a J6er and I was invited to that, and if it wasn't for the fact that we had this virus going around and we didn't have a shot yet, and I, being my mother's caregiver, I could not risk exposing her to it. And she and the other person that lives here, they had actually told me that if I left the state, that I wouldn't be welcome back. And then, of course, the governor was saying we had to have a 2-week quarantine, and I couldn't afford to spend 2 weeks in a hotel, because, I have housing in Washington, D.C., even though my friend might be getting increasingly mad at me because he is mad about Trump might be about to take down that commie tent in Lafayette Park. That, yeah, my friend staffs it. He's on the wrong side with that. I don't want to say he's an anti-Semite, but he believes in that free Palestine bullshit. And I have argued with so many of the people there. And, one of the things that hurts is that guy, he and I have been friends since 1992. We lived in LA doing Los Angeles stuff about the same time. And he's a trained artist and stuff. Mandy McCracken, I hope you feel better. I don't know if you're just talking about just physical things or if you mean the malaise so many of us have been feeling because of current events. But, I certainly sympathize about the not feeling good physical part, because, I had that pneumonia. I was not good. This whole thing with Charlie's got me so gut punched, And at the same time, sometimes I feel like I don't totally belong with that movement, because, sometimes you talk about the Bible so much that it makes me feel like that's one part of the group that I can't pretend that I'm with. But it's not that I'm against it, it's just I need, and my mother says I need to have this thing called faith. And it's like, you can have faith in all kinds of things. I have faith in this thing called gravity, that if I drop this, it fell down. You see, I have faith in things that I have seen there's proof of. But I did see a video of Charlie where he was talking to somebody about his Christian faith, and he was talking about all this archaeological evidence that the Bible is true and stuff. And the thing is, that's one of the things that I've been wondering about. But I also wonder about the much older religions. Aren't there places in India that have archaeological proof of the Hindu deities and stuff? It seems to me, and one of the things that always bothered me when I was a kid growing up, and we would learn about history and social studies, and they would talk about this thing called Greek mythology, which is basically saying that you're treating what was a real religion to the people at that time. It was their gods and goddesses were as real to them as when people talk about Jesus and God and Mary and Joseph and the saints and all that stuff. It's as real to them then as what people believe now. And the people in India that go to those temples, they really believe in Hanuman. They really believe in Ganesha. They believe in reincarnation. They are sincere believers, and to them it's not just, you have to have faith. To them, it's very real. And to just go and discount somebody who believes in something that's thousands and thousands and thousands of years older, and dismiss people who have taken up the mantle of the old gods from hundreds of thousands of years ago, like they're crazy or something. To me, a religion does not deserve disrespect unless they're doing something terroristic, like the people that are blowing people up and stuff. The religion of peace. I think you know what I'm saying there. Now, In the Bible, doesn't it say, by their by their works shall you know them? So if they're going around hurting people, well, that's not the same thing as loving your neighbor as yourself. I mean, a good thing about Jesus was this love stuff. I think we can all get behind that. But if Charlie was still here, I would like to tell him that a person can be an occultist, and it doesn't mean they're satanic. A person can wear a pentagram. It doesn't mean they're demonic. It doesn't make us evil. You can love somebody and be an atheist, you know. You can love somebody and don't assume just because somebody has cultural and philosophical differences that they're incapable of love. But that said, it's seeming more and more like the people on the left are increasingly unhinged. They are the ones that are doing the rhetoric. You can only call people worthless, an existential threat to our democracy, an existential threat to you and me. You call people Nazi, you call people fascists. You call them this over and over and over again, and there's going to be some people that are going to say, well, I'm going to stand up and defeat this evil. And then anybody like us are targets. And if you're somebody who is as eloquent and warm and engaging and persuasive as Charlie was, and he went out like Trump does. You notice when he was running for president, he would go on everybody's shows. He went, one of the things which amazed me, one of many things that amazed me about our president, he went to, there's this organization of black woman journalists. Not exactly what you would call a GOP-friendly crowd. And they were disrespectful to him. The questions they were asking him, they were trying to make him look like he was a hater of some kind. He handled it with such aplomb, such sophistication, such warmth, such practicality, such decency. And he met people where they are. Just like when Charlie would go in all these college campuses and let anybody ask him anything. The people wanted to challenge him on things. And he, in good faith, let them say whatever. Even when people would call him names and things, and he wouldn't get rattled. He would just respond with logic and respect. And look what happened. You know. So, yeah, okay, I'm going to read what you just said out loud, Meyer. I really like this. Meyer says, I have a desire to be good and to help others if I can. I want to be patient and kind, but I also want to crush my enemies. Yeah. Oh, man. So, okay, I'm going to think of, who's my enemy? Well, one person I could think of, and he's out for a couple of days, and that's somebody that lives here. If you know, you know. Can a person you're philosophically opposed to be your enemy? Well, okay, while I never really thought of President Joe Biden as my enemy, I was definitely against so much of what he stood for. But now, let's take Zohran Mamdani. He's running for mayor of New York City, and he is an unapologetic socialist. He says democratic socialist, but it's socialist. I don't want to say he's my enemy because that's a real harsh thing. When you say crush your enemies, that can be interpreted in a few ways that are maybe not contributing to the fact that we as Republicans, as people on the right, are trying to not be as ugly as the left is doing, even though there's a part of me that, like you said, wants to crush your enemies. What do we do without sounding like the evil people that want to silence speech that they don't approve of by any means necessary? I mean, we don't want to do Malcolm X moments. By the way, Malcolm X was made by too. But how do you reconcile feeling that, oh my God, what are we going to do if that commie wins? You've got him going up against 3 people and nobody wants to bow out, and there's no way that you can get a majority when he is already, 34%, 43%, whatever. You got 3 people going against him. Cuomo, Adams, and Curtis Sliwa. And Curtis Sliwa would be my personal favorite because he is a Republican and running on Law and Order. And I don't even necessarily like everything that the Guardian Angels did. I know what the Guardian Angels did in Hollywood to the punk rockers and the goths who were homeless. And they basically were not much more than a glorified gang. And they went after people. And they once pointed out a joint that I was smoking in Hollywood. I'll never forget that. And because they had walkie-talkies, I thought they were going to call the cops on me. Of course, I lied when they said it, asked me if I had more weed. Of course, I hadn't. But anyway, I never forgot that. And I remember when the 1994 earthquake happened, and somebody found their clubhouse and took their pool table and a bunch of their berets, and a bunch of punk rockers were wearing Guardian Angels hats. But the thing is, I like Curtis Lewa personally. I've not met him. But it's just like sometimes cops act like gangs, and I think some of them get a sadistic pleasure out of hassling pot smokers and hassling homeless people. In any group, you can have people that get power hungry and decide to get a little sadistic, and I know that shouldn't reflect on the whole. Just like if you have a few bad experience with religious extremists, you shouldn't let that affect how you feel. Like, I had a lot of bad experiences with so-called Bible-fearing Christians, and they seem to forget the part about loving your neighbor as yourself. And that's the thing I don't understand. So many people, they claim to be all by the book, and where's the love? I mean, are they capable of loving people different than them? And I don't mean just skin color and stuff. I mean religion. I mean philosophy. But then again, if you're talking about philosophical differences, I know that it's hard to say, okay, I'll use my mom as an example. My love for her should not have to be questioned, okay? But one thing that kind of drives me crazy is that she watches The View. She watches those twits, those Democrats, and she watches ABC News with David Muir. I've been lately trying to turn her on to more things going on Fox News. I broke the news to her about Charlie's assassination. I had to tell her who he was. She wasn't really familiar with him, and even though I know, I had to have told her about him, because when I came back from Washington, D.C., I know I had to have told her that he interviewed me when I was waiting in line to see Trump for the victory thing. I still think that's why I didn't end up getting in there, because, when I'm being interviewed, I'm talking and stuff. And everybody, they say, most people's favorite subject to talk about is themselves. And maybe I didn't contradict that day. I'm going to get a cup so I can put some water. This is just water. Yes, it's a stem glass, but it's just water. I like to use stem glasses. I hope nobody thinks I'm drinking alcohol. Haven't drunk in over 20 years. I thought I was coming down with something again last week. And I'm still coughing up some stuff. I've been going through so much honey. Now I'm using packets because I ran out of the big containers of it. And part of the reason why I'm drinking water now instead of tea or coffee is because I am very low on sweeteners, and I don't drink coffee without sweetener of some kind in it. So I could try to train myself to like it without, but I choose not to, because life is too short to deprive yourself of certain things. But I'm trying to find, I hate that this is reversed. I'm trying to find a workaround with this. This is why I really prefer using a laptop, because I don't like this thing. There doesn't seem to be anything in any of the settings. Now, if you have an iPhone, there are settings that you can check. You have to go into the mirror, the selfie camera, and untoggle the thing about mirror image or something. But I don't understand why YouTube doesn't have something built in, since they seem to have little icons on the edge of the live stream thing. Matter of fact, I'm going to touch one to see what the heck they are. Okay, one says flip, one says mute, one says hide live video, what the hell that means. One says retouch, one says create highlight, one says lighting, and the other says close. So unfortunately, the flip thing, all that does is show you what's on the other side of the camera, which is just a wall and some cluttery crap that if I wanted you to see it, I would be standing over there. You don't have something to reverse this. And I don't understand what the problem is, why they don't allow us to do that. If any of you guys know, feel free to tell me. I could spend some more time and look to see if maybe there are some instructional videos on it. I know I asked AI, I've been asking all these different guys. I even tried asking, somebody sent me a link to ChatGPT. What are my thoughts on Charlie being assassinated? I feel numb. I feel very sad. I'm crying a lot. The only death impacts that I can compare this to, if you guys can even believe that, are when Peter Steele died, which admittedly I had a big old crush on him, a lot of us did. Each time my cats die, and I'm assuming when my father died also, even though when my father died, because you know how when you are part of a family and you're in bereavement and you have to show up for the viewing and the funeral mass or whatever it is, and you have to put on a brave front for all the visitors because you don't want to make them feel worse, so you can't cry, you restrain yourself and everything. And the thing is, that's the worst thing you can do when you're undergoing grief. If you restrain your feelings, then you will successfully cut them off. And then you will find yourself unable to feel and unable to express. And then after a couple of months, then all of a sudden, everything you suppressed will come at you. Every time you don't want it to. In public, you'll embarrass yourself. You'll cry. If you're a woman, you'll cry your makeup off. It'll happen when you're in public. It'll happen all of these times. And the triggers for this grief won't just be the usual suspects. There'll be all kinds of different things. Like, for me, one of the things that triggers my sadness for my cat's passing, in addition to cat commercials and cat content, and of course all this stuff when we do this so-called doom scrolling, and it seems to me I found all this stuff about dead and dying cats when my cats were, not even before they started to get sick, and it started making me dread the inevitable. And now I find it, even certain dog food commercials get at me, and certain things about families and babies, and I start thinking about what may have been in my life. And when Charlie died, first of all, I was very shocked by this because I was watching Fox News when they were saying that he was getting ready to talk in Utah. And I was hoping that they would show it. A lot of times they show these things live. And they did the first question, and then somebody said he was shot. And people were talking about it, whatever, and then finally somebody broke in and said that President Trump announced that he had passed. And the thing is, as soon as I heard he was shot, I went to my altar, which you know is back here, and I'm going to give you guys a clear look. This is my altar, and, and that was Charlie's candle, and it was for his healing and stuff. And when I saw that, obviously my magic, my witchcraft did not help. You guys' prayers didn't help. A person who might be interested in approaching Christianity again and seeing if they can find any validity or anything they can relate to in their own lives. And I just keep on noticing something. So many times, prayer doesn't seem to work. And if your God is all-knowing and all-wise and cares and loves you so much, why are your prayers not answered? When 9/11 happened, that really shook me and traumatized me, as I'm sure it did most of you, unless you were too young to really appreciate its impact. But 9/11 happened in 9/11. Then my father died New Year's Eve of 2008. And sometime between 9/11 and the death of my father, I went kind of atheist, I'll be honest with you. I couldn't see praying to a God that didn't seem like he heard or cared. And, being increasingly politically active and a right-wing person, I was enamored of George W. Bush. I can be enamored of all these born-again Christians while it being other things besides their faith that is what draws me to them. Their basic decency. They're wanting to be moral. They're wanting to be a force for good in the world. They're wanting to exact justice. They're wanting to put the foot down and say, no, you're not going to damage my country. No, you're not going to put our women and children in danger. No, you're not going to force your way of life on people who aren't interested. No, you're not going to promulgate lawlessness. No, you're not going to try to tempt people with evil things. And by evil, I don't mean somebody selling single joints on a corner. I mean somebody that's, say, peddling fentanyl, or somebody who's trying to sexualize kids, or somebody who's trying to confuse kids and make them doubt the reality of their own biology, or the people that are trying to groom children or maybe separate them alone so that they can be more easily corrupted. There are a lot of real evils in this world, and I think it's important to have the courage to stand up. Sometimes you have to coat it with love, especially if you're afraid of physical retribution, but you have to let people know that you care, and you have to sometimes you have to take a stand. But then look what happened to Charlie. I want to align with the forces that he was with. I mean, if TPUSA would have somebody who's not in college and not even of their spiritual bent, but is of love and wants to otherwise join, I remember when the Tea Party was a thing. And I was listening to Glenn Beck at the time. And I liked Glenn Beck a lot, and I still do. And I wanted to go to those Tea Party things. But Glenn Beck, as much as I love and respect him, and I loved when he would talk openly about his alcoholism and how he used to do things and he'd quit them. And I really reacted favorably to that because, like him, I had an epiphany that made me realize I had to quit doing what I was doing, and I walked away from all those things, cold turkey. I quit the drugs first, and then I quit the drinking. And arguably, I think the drinking was even more important in my life. But when he said for us to go to these Tea Party demonstrations, but he said, don't wear anything costumey, don't carry any signs, don't look like this, don't look like that. And I was basically made to feel that my very nature, my very way that I present, I am costumey. At the time, I didn't have any business suits in my closet. I didn't have normal clothes. I didn't even have a pair of blue jeans. There was really nothing that I would want to wear that would be normal and boring. And I would certainly want to wear political things. I'd be dripping in Trump stuff and Republican stuff and elephants and red, white, and blue. And yes, I'd wear a short hemline. And yes, I'd wear stockings. And all those things that I got the feeling from him they didn't want to see in the crowd, because they didn't want, his reasoning was he wanted that crowd to be so innocent and Sunday gone to meeting looking that anybody filming people in the crowd trying to look for some example of those crazy right-wing extremists would focus on people like me and would be distracted and think that we are all a bunch of crazies. And I could kind of see his point, but then I also know that was an inhibitory and discouraging focus and force for me. Kind of like why I don't go to AA meetings anymore. And you want to know why I don't? Why I stopped? Because I was discouraged. I was in Washington, D.C., you see. And it was one of those times when I went to Washington. And when I go to D.C., I wear almost all nothing but Trump stuff and red, white, and blue stuff. And a little bit of pot leaf stuff because I do like the herb. And so on this particular day, I had a pot leaf shirt on, and I had no way of knowing I was going to be invited to an AA meeting. And so I wanted to cover up the pot leaf, obviously, as soon as I found out I was going. The only thing I had that was big enough to cover it up was a big, giant Trump button, and I put the button right here where this 20 is. That was where the pot leaf was. And, of course, I was wearing my MAGA hat, And I went to the meeting, and it was all fine, and it was hunky-dory. But then when the meeting was over, I'm assuming gay gentleman, and I have no problem with that, but if you are, you are. Okay, and he basically told me about my hat, that was not appreciated and not respected and all that stuff. And it's like I wasn't actively trying to gain people to vote for Trump, even though maybe I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I wasn't even noticing that it was anything more than a hat. When I wear my MAGA hats, I have so many of them now, I'm used to wearing them, and I shouldn't be told that I'm not welcome to go to meetings just because of what I'm wearing. But, I felt so discouraged. And the funny thing is, usually the very last thing after the whole serenity prayer and all that stuff is, keep coming back. It works if you work it. Well, they did not want me there. And I even wrote to that meeting. Have you ever heard of DuPont Circle? That is one of many neighborhoods in Washington, D.C., and that's where the meeting was. At the end of the year, every year they always send a fundraising letter. They all want donations. And I wrote back to them. And I said, oh, by the way, and I gave them my experience at this meeting. And I told them how it made me feel unwanted, not just at their precious little libtard meeting, but at all meetings. Because I'm thinking, if you guys hate Trump, and we who happen to just be wearing this stuff because we wear it because we believe that this is a cultural war we're going on, and you're saying that we're not wanted, what if I was so upset by what was said that I decided to go on a bender and go visit my nearest liquor store? I didn't do it. I never slipped with my journey of sobriety. As far as alcohol goes, I've never gone back on that. But I don't think it's right that people should be ever discouraged when they otherwise want to participate. Now, I attended the Demand Free Speech rally that Laura Lomer was supposed to be at, that, Scott Presler was there, and a bunch of people. Then there was this thing that if you could afford a fancy ticket, you actually got bused to a secret location because Antifa was hunting us down, literally. And it was the Metropolitan Police Department, which is Washington, D.C.'s police, that were literally bodyguarding us and protecting us. And they were escorting us all, Trump supporters, to a certain Trump supporters hangout that is no more. Harry's Bar in the Hotel Harrington. There's a restaurant and a bar and a gift shop. I was just in Washington, D.C. The whole building is gone or the hotel is closed or whatever. I don't know if this is a casualty of COVID or what. Oh, you guys, I got to get in front of the fan. I hope you don't mind. Oh, the fan is right here. I'm just so hot. Thank you guys for tuning in. A lot of times, sometimes when I do later at night, I don't see people on. I know that my British brothers and sisters, it's like 4 hours later there, but I could see that people on the East Coast, it would be easy to tune in because it's 3 hours earlier there than it is here. Okay, this is a warmer setting. I want to be cooler. Yeah, I'm just really empty about Charlie, and now when I have to finally stop this, that will probably be, because I don't know how fast this is going to power down. One thing, when I'm looking at myself doing the live stream here, I don't see anything telling me where I am on battery power, but I know when the battery goes, I'm going to have to recharge again. And then after I recharge, and it does take a while, then I'm going to put some search terms, and I'm going to see if I can find some vigils, even remotely around here. There have been some that I found out about that are way up in North Jersey. I'm not in the mood to take 4 or 5 different buses, paying all that bus fare, which frankly I don't have. And if I could find something close by here, like here we have a college called Stockton University. It would be really great if they did something on that campus, and if they allowed non-school kids to join, because in that case I could walk to some of the campuses, I'm not a joiner, really. I do a lot of things by myself, everything from my magical workings to a lot of things. But that said, I really enjoy the energy of crowds. I find them energizing. I find them exciting. And if it's a crowd where we're all there for the same reason, expressing our love for somebody, our love for a movement, our commitment to being part of something bigger than ourselves, our commitment to helping to educate our fellows, and just try to be forces for good. That's something I always wanted to do with this channel. That's something that I always wanted to accomplish after I got certain goals, certain professional goals that I would have achieved showbiz-wise, that would have enabled me to have the money and the resources to do big things, like open up a cat sanctuary and have some sanctuary, so to speak, for homeless people, to get them housed in someplace safe, like a series of communes, for instance, where people can grow gardens and maybe take care of horses and find ways to be of service that also align with their interests and their talents. And like if they're artists, they could do that and whatever. But maybe with enough counselors there, so if anybody has any unchecked mental problems, they can't make it dangerous for other people, because the last thing I want to do is to be just another halfway house for borderline crazies that go into the general world and do things. I don't know if I could ever forgive myself if people did things and harmed people and I was the one that was giving them safe harbor. You know, I'm obviously not a trained counselor, and I don't have the kind of education that would give me the authority and knowledge to really do much more than just try to be a good influence and a friend. But in light of so many criminal acts that have been happening at the hands of mentally unstable people, it's certainly a valid concern to not want to create an environment that protects that, because it's just like bartenders can get in a lot of trouble if they overserve somebody and that person goes on to drink and drive. I think we all share a similar responsibility. And just like, I guess, people on social media, people that have any kind of platforms, including small-timers like myself that don't even have 2,000 subs, I still want to be a good influence. And I know I probably sound like a hypocrite, since I often smoke weed on my live streams and stuff, and somehow I don't think Charlie Kirk would have approved. But it's like there are no Christians that smoke weed. Come on. There are no Christians that get drunk. There's no Christians that do drugs. There's no Christians that, I mean, and again, do you think of enjoying a joint with your friends as a sinful act? I don't think. You can think of it as this way: the God of your understanding, if you believe He created heavens and earth, well, He created drugs. Do you want to think He created the bad things? Or do you just want to say that's demonic? What about weed? So many people use it responsibly and enjoy themselves. I often say that I like a marijuana high because it makes me feel like a hug from God. And I have wee little bit that somebody showed up at my house before I had to go to the library today and gave me a little something, you know. And I can say it feels good to have friends, even though some of the people that I talked to didn't even know who he was. And I told them about Charlie, and somebody tried to tell me, oh, Leathur, you know, I'm homeless, I don't follow that stuff. Well, strange. I know, even just a couple years after 9/11, I knew so many homeless people in Los Angeles that still managed to have cell phones. And when I was homeless, I was going to the library, I was getting internet access. Being homeless does not mean you have to not know what the hell's going on. Homeless people, a lot of times they had those Obama phones, which means they have internet. They don't just have cell phones that you hope you get a Wi-Fi signal. They actually have plans. And they can access the news if they want. Tell me they're doing something besides just playing stupid games, even though sometimes people come to my house and all they do is play stupid games on their cell phone. And I actually said something about that today. But they can educate themselves. do they have the courage to entertain thoughts any differently from whatever their dominant paradigm is? It took me courage to challenge that maybe some of my assumptions were wrong in my post 9/11 worldview, and then 9/11 happened and hit me upside the head when I left LA and I came out here, and then all of a sudden I discovered Fox News Channel. And again, there's people that would cheer on a man who he died and his wife is grieving. Got a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old that will not see their daddy anymore. How anybody could make light of that? How anybody could be that insensitive? You know, I didn't cheer. I'm trying to think of somebody on the left who I cannot stand. Okay, I think of one. Maxine Waters. Cannot stand her. Oh, God, she annoys me. I would not, if I heard that she died, I would not make a bunch of obnoxious comments about it. I wouldn't say that I would cry, okay? But I wouldn't be an asshole about it. I mean, now, there are people that I have said bad things about after they died, but they weren't political figures. They were entertainers who I personally know not to be nice people, such as Aretha Franklin. Some of you guys might not want to hear this. My mom met her when my mom was working at Trump Taj Mahal. And my mom was a cashier then. And she happened to be in one of the casino cages, even though my mom usually worked either for the, they had the Sultan's Feast, which was a buffet, and then they moved her to this Chinese restaurant called The Rim, which was really wonderful. They loved her. Wherever my mom worked, they loved her. A lot of times she was the only white person there. And when she worked in a Chinese place, she was the only non-Asian there, and they loved her. You know, everybody loves my mom because she treats people the way people want to be treated, you know. My mom does live according to those Christian ideals, and my mother, as a matter of fact, does identify as a Christian. She says she has this thing called faith, and she says she's a believer, and, but yeah, anyway, I'm kind of at a loss, and I think I am going to contact Turning Point USA, and I'm going to see if they would have a use for a, I'll be a little bit snarky here, middle-aged heathen like myself. But no, I shouldn't say the word heathen, because heathen is not a word, by the way, it should be used as an insult. Heathenism is a genuine pagan religion, and to be used the way so many people use it is kind of a disrespect to that religion. And I would like to think of those devout Christians, for instance. They want to be respected. So if they want to be respected, maybe they should respect these other faiths more, especially the faiths that are not putting suicide bomb belts on themselves and saying certain things, and, you know, the heathens are not doing that. The witches are not doing that. Muslims are not. I mean, excuse me. The Hindus are not doing that, you know. And I got no beef with the Christians, because you guys aren't burning witches anymore, right? So as long as you don't do that, we're fine. You know, let's join forces. Let's join forces to protect kids. Let's join forces to protect our borders so that we no longer have them open, so that people, I mean, we probably got to get a couple million, say 5 million people probably need to be kicked out of here. And I'm sure it's not going to be too hard to find 10 million bad hombres, as Trump said, you know. But I don't want to disrespect everybody on the left. I mean, my mom considers herself a Democrat, okay, but my mom watches The View. And The View, just like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel and so many voices on the left, it's all, we hate Trump supporters, all you guys are idiots, all you guys are basically a threat to our democracy, blah, 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 get out the violins. And I know my mom's not an idiot. I know my mom's not stupid. So, I know one rational, non-stupid Democrat. But, and I don't want to do the same trap, fall into the same dirty plays that they're doing, where they're assuming that everybody that's not like them, we're fascists and we're no good. Well, by the same token, how am I supposed to avoid assumption that Democrats are stupid? Because, especially the ones that are of a more socialist bent, the people that think these are good ideas, the people that think that you could tax your way out of everything, the people who think that it's okay to spend other people's money, the people who think that it's okay to forgive college debt and let kids get degrees in gender studies, or as the great, have you heard of, what's his name? Bob Ramsey? Is Bob his first name? He's all about getting out of debt and fiscal sanity and fiscal responsibility. And he says that don't let your kids get a degree in left-handed puppetry. You know, better to go to a trade school where you graduate without student debt and you actually have usable skills rather than going to school and getting these useless degrees. I've known people to go and get useless degrees. And they turn out they can't get work in what they got trained for, and they have to spend more money to get trained in something else that will hopefully get them a job. And actually, that did happen for a friend of mine after he went to NYU and he went to Columbia. And yes, he is a liberal. And, you know, and the sad thing is he and I stopped being friends because on Facebook, he kept on aligning himself with these Marxists and these otherwise Democrat people. And they would do all this Trump bashing, and Elon Musk bashing, and Republican bashing, and Charlie Kirk bashing. Whenever I would say something to speak up, and everybody, all his friends would gang up on me. And even though he maybe agreed with his friends politically, he stood by allowing his real-life friend to be bullied. And he and I have been friends since freshman year of high school, okay? He is now in administration in one of the leading cancer hospitals in the New York City area. He's somebody who went from wanting to, when he was first going to school, he wanted to be able to get work excavating for archaeological sites, preserving art, and doing things with it. He couldn't get work doing that. And he happens to also be a gay man. So you know how people were afraid of dealing with blood because of HIV and AIDS and all that stuff. So by going to school to learn how to be a phlebotomist and work around blood, which a lot of people were afraid to do at that time, that's what got him into the medical field. And now he's in administration. And exactly what that means and what he does, I really don't know. But when he failed to defend me when I was being ganged up on by all these people, and friends don't allow friends to be dirty like that. Even if you don't agree with their philosophically wise, if you're a decent friend, you should defend your friends. And he didn't do that. And there have been so many times when he treated me in a dehumanizing manner. Like he would say things like, well, Leathur, you know you don't have to dress like a $2 hooker. I mean, you can imagine somebody talking like that. You know, and I like to tell him that prostitutes do not dress like me. Around here, they don't wear garter belts and stockings. They don't wear makeup. They don't try to look cute. Okay, there was this one chick who did look a little bit on the goth side. Her hair was a fucking wig. But really, I do not find women that look like me that are streetwalkers. And if they're going to be the so-called high-class ones, which I don't understand how you could be high-class hooker. What's high-class about selling your body? I don't find it classy at all. But I understand that the ones that actually hang out in the upscale hotels and stuff, they have to still look kind of on the normal side, because if you look too trashy, like for instance, if I went in and had a drink in one of those places, I probably would be breaking dress code, and just the garter belts and stockings alone, they might ask me to leave because they might think I was a whore. And meanwhile, the ones that are really the whores are the ones that might be wearing an evening gown or something, and they're going to be the one that some guy's going to buy. So you can't always look and judge, you know, and nobody starts to think about things like rock and roll or goth or punk or industrial or techno or any of that stuff. Nobody or few people have the imagination and open-mindedness to give a person a benefit of a doubt before casting aspersions on what you think their morals are. And then there are those people that think that if you're single and you're not extremely young, there must be something wrong with you, and you must be a person of loose morals because you didn't couple up and settle down. And it's like, what if you didn't like the gene pool and there was no reason to settle down? Did people ever think about that? Charlie was always talking about how important it was for people to marry and have families and stuff. And that's a great thing if it happens to you, but it doesn't happen for everybody, Sometimes people look for love and they end up finding abuse and they have to escape from it. And, when you've ever had that kind of experience, it's a very terrifying thing. And it kind of can put a person off their feet as far as trying to pursue a relationship, because you're thinking, do I really want to go through that again? Do I want to trust somebody who might take my stuff, abuse me, abuse my pets? Do I want to bring a child into this world with somebody like that? And if you're going to even think about wanting to create a baby with somebody, don't you want to provide stability for them? You don't want to try to, I'm working on making a baby with you, and meanwhile you're going to leave me in a couple of years and I'm going to be stuck with the brat? No. And meanwhile I've destroyed my figure because I gave birth to this child and I have all this work to do and all this drudgery to do. Oh, how am I supposed to work and support this child at the same time? You can't cut yourself in half and go to work and stay at home and take care of the kid. And if you don't have a partner, that's the whole thing. Is that the only thing I know personally is I was raised with a mother and father. My mom stayed at home, took care of me. My father worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. He worked 2 and 3 jobs. He worked and worked and worked. And he was a proud veteran, and because he was a veteran, he had veteran vendor's license, and he used to sell ice cream on the beach. Oh, his skin would be so red. Like the red live icon you guys might see. My father his skin was like my lipstick. He had 8 skin cancers cut off of him before he died. And the last 2 metastasized. He died approximately the same time that Charlie Kirk died, in that my father died between 12:22 and 12:23 p.m. on New Year's Eve. And Charlie was shot or died at 12:23 on the 10th of September. And when I heard the numbers, because about the time that it happened, I thought of my father right away. And it's strange because when I looked at Charlie, it's like I saw a beautiful young man. And by beautiful, I don't just mean the inner beauty that everybody's talking about. I mean, he was a hottie. I mean, I would totally go for a guy like that. I mean, he is totally my type. I generally like him longer haired, but you know what? But then again, like I said, he hadn't met the love of his life, and I'm sure he didn't want a woman older than himself, and I'm sure that he wanted somebody that was as faithful and devout and have lots of babies and do all that stuff. And I'm happy that he and she found happiness and found love, and he was able to do so much in so many few short years that a person can live to be 113 and not accomplish what he did. I mean, it makes whatever few achievements I ever did in my life puts me to shame, because I can't imagine starting out at the young age that he did and wanting to do these things and thinking that he had a shot at inspiring other people and having this need and this drive. And it's so amazing. I mean, they just don't make people like that. And I'm so grateful for what he did to help Trump get elected. I mean, that's part of what I love about the My Pillow guy so much. Is that even though I didn't agree with the abortion stance and stuff, but still, hey, if you're gonna do what you can to campaign for my hero and get him elected, right away, I'm your fan. And so I'm able to excuse people who maybe take a stand on things I might not agree with, but there's so many other things that they're about that I do agree with. And so I'm going to excuse the right to lifers because you still love Trump and you still love the GOP, and but for those people that believe that in cases of rape and incest you still got to give birth, force somebody to give birth to a child, I don't think is right. If a person has gone through the trauma of rape, I don't understand how anybody feels that they need to give birth. I think that forcing someone to give birth against their will is morally wrong. And I think that us women, yes, women and men are different. I am not a man. I accept that. Sometimes I give an attitude like I might think I am, but I know my biology. Matter of fact, freshman year in high school, I got an A in my biology finals. Okay, even though I was a bit on the drunk side because I thought it was cute to bring wine to school in a pickle jar and go chug a lug. Hey, I was bad in school. Okay, but I graduated, so I didn't screw up because if you live in my mom's house, and she had been a high school English teacher, education was not something that was a negotiable. You would need to at least get your high school education out of the way. I did. But anyway, the point of this is I think we should be willing to love and support people that we can disagree with, because there's always things that we can find common ground with. Now, I'm not going to love and support AOC. I think she's a twit and an idiot. But at least if I ever hung out with her, we could talk about some things we agree with. She's pro-choice, I am too. We could talk about that. And she's not an ugly girl, so we could talk beauty tips. I could say, I like that red lipstick of yours. And if she works out, maybe we could talk about workout routines or something. Just like if I ever got a chance to meet Barack Obama or Michelle, I could talk to her about maybe her fitness routine, because she's got some nice arm muscles. And I liked her Let's Move initiative and the White House Garden, things. I liked her husband. I thank him for his stance on women's rights, at least the abortion thing. And well, I wonder if he smoked weed. I'd smoke some weed with him, because. But I would want to find common ground with people. Now, I mean, you can be friends with almost anybody. Like, I don't think I could be friends with a Nazi, though, but I have a friend who is part of that Free Palestine movement. And this is a real serious friend I have. And it bothers me that he has these beliefs. And he believes he's a peace and love guy, and he's also a Christian, by the way. And if any of you are also watching Fox News kind of people, and I'm imagining a lot of you are, were you happening to be watching a couple days ago when Trump was on the White House lawn and he was taking questions from reporters, and somebody mentioned there's this park across from the White House. It's called Lafayette Park. And there's, if you're familiar with Washington, D.C., which I know fairly well nowadays, there's this little hippie tent that it says the Free Palestine bullshit and all this stuff against Trump and against Republicans and all this stuff. And it basically kind of makes me die a little death every time I see it. And occasionally you'll have some Jewish people go in good faith, and they'll try to ask, because they put different flags on this tent, and they had this big flag of the state of Israel, and they asked if it could be put on there, and my nice friend who's staffing it, he said, well, you have to get permission from, and he gave a name of a certain other person who seems to run the tent, and this other person hates the state of Israel. And I'm going to make an assumption, I can't read his mind, but I'm going to guess, how can you hate the state of Israel and not hate the Jewish people? It's really hard to say that you don't like the government, you don't like Israel, and yet you're not anti-Semitic. I mean, if you think about what Israel represents to most Jews, that is what they consider their ancestral homeland. That is, many people consider this a biblical mandate that this is their home. Then when the diaspora happened and the 12 tribes were spread all over, and then of course with the Holocaust, or any time when the Jewish people had to go into exile, they're very lucky that there's this place called the United States of America that is probably, I understand there are probably more Jews here than there are in Israel. This is, or was, a safe place. America is supposed to be a safe place. We are not some third world country. We're a place where I'm a woman. I'm not very big. I walk around all hours of the day or night. And every now and then I have experienced things which kind of remind me that I'm not as safe as I take for granted. When that guy smashed my computer on the side of Tropicana, all because he was looking for a prostitute to buy, and he seemed to think I was one, and I dared express my righteous indignation. He didn't seem to understand that most women do not like being thought of as whores. That if a woman can't wear something cute for being on camera or whatever without some creep thinking the wrong thing. And the sad thing is, the guy that was trying to buy me, he was a good-looking guy himself. He was a skateboarder guy. He was a Spanish guy that had either dreads or braids, I don't know. And I was taking out my braids at the time. And he said something chilling to me just before he smashed my computer. He says, "I know the street you live on." So again, it made me feel like I have a target on my back, And now, with what happened to Charlie, again, I feel like we all have targets on our back. But you know what? We could either let the fear make us retreat like a turtle and your head's going into your shell. Yeah, the sky's falling. We're doomed. There's nothing left to live for, so I'm just going to retreat and I'm not going to show my face again. No, life's too short for that. Maybe I don't have the kind of big platform like Charlie did. Maybe I'm just this little YouTuber with 1,700 and whatever the fuck's viewers. But I know that even though I only have a few subs, I have a lot more than that who watch my content sometimes, and for whatever reason, they don't like it enough to sub, but they still tune in sometimes. If any of my content gives anybody any value at all, if it makes you feel better, if it makes you feel that you're not alone, if it makes you feel entertained or assured or makes you think, I'm grateful for that, because at least it makes me feel like I'm good for something. Besides the fact that, yes, I've saved some cats. I've rescued some mice from glue traps. I've rescued some mice and relocated them out of here so they didn't get killed by mean people or poisons. Tried to do a few good things, I'm no saint by any stretch of the imagination, but tried to give some comfort to some people, got a few people in and out of the cold. For a while there, that guy was sleeping on my steps, he's now staying with some church lady now in a comfortable bed, I heard. And I hope they're treating him well, and I hope they're not just using him for slave labor, because slavery was outlawed. I believe Lincoln made it so. But unfortunately, some of these churches, they're black-run churches, and they're still using older, gullible black people for free labor. And what's up with that? You're saying, you're doing this for God. Meanwhile, the people that run these churches, tax-free income, pass the collection plate. They're doing pretty well. Everybody, now granted, I haven't known a whole lot of people that run churches. I knew some people that were affiliated with churches in Hollywood and in Los Angeles, and those people didn't seem like the kind of people that they're making big money off of collection plates. Those people seemed very sincere, and they weren't dripping in furs and, like the stereotype of a person running a church, and they have a fancy car, and his wife's dripping in furs and diamonds, and he's got the feather in his cap, and he's got that fancy pimp style, like in the 70s black exploitation films and stuff. But around here, so many people run churches. They get the tax write-off. They're doing very well. Well, this guy who was staying with me, he has been staying with this church later. He tells me that she would just take her hand and take the money from the collection plate and stuff it in her pocket. My friend smokes cigarettes. She gave him a $20 bill so that he could get a pack of cigarettes. The pack of cigarettes was $12, apparently. Well, when he got his change, you know what he did with it? He gave it to me. she wanted to change. He told her that he gave it to me. She wasn't too happy about that, but his reasoning was, I had been letting him stay with me. He knew that I had to devote time to taking care of my mother, so I couldn't go and do other things, go outside the home to make a livelihood. I certainly can't go and play guitar because the cops put the kibosh on that, and I have to be very limited and careful in how much time I leave my mother unattended, you know. I am very deliberate and careful about when I go out, and I'm not out for too long, and if I have to be out for longer, I send people up to make sure that she's okay. Just like if I have to go back to Washington for any reasons, or if, say there's something going on relating to Charlie, if I can get there, I obviously have to make arrangements to protect her first. But that's the thing, is that I want to be able, am I trans? No. But I have had a few people have asked through the years. When I was living in San Francisco, I befriended a guy who honestly couldn't tell what my gender was. And at the time, it really didn't bother me at all because I was hanging out in some very interesting scenes, and I was more liberal then. But, and I actually lived in the Castro for a while. I lived in a Gothic roommate situation with 7 other people, and most of them were identifying as bisexuals, but they were cisgender people. And one of my roommates had a dog, and we had a real beautiful experience, actually. There was a man, this was, of course, when AIDS was a real serious, terrible thing, and there was no marriage equality then. And if, say, your lover had AIDS and you're in a hospital visiting him, the family would not let you visit them, and people, just families treated people, the loves of the sick person, horribly. And I remember he saw us sitting, well, I was standing, I wasn't sitting on the ground. My roommates were using their dog to help them stage. I never felt right with panhandling because I can't do it. I would rather find a way to make money, whether it be dyeing people's dreadlocks, like I did when I went on tour with Grateful Dead, or reading tarot cards, or finding a strip joint, doing hoochie coo, which is a lot of fun. I highly don't discourage it as long as you don't get into sex work or doing anything sleazy. But if all you're doing is dancing and maybe showing some skin, I don't think that's a bad thing. Now, I don't think Charlie Kirk would have approved, but I used to, when I was in the Castro, I used to go to a place called the Whiptail Lizard Lounge, which was a female-only space. And I will note that the only people that were really nice to me there were the trans people. And one of my happiest memories there, though, there was this girl doing a stripper show, and she danced to some Madonna songs. And she was blonde, and she was giving lap dances to a bunch of people. I'm a quintuple Scorpio. I have Moon, Sun, Mercury, Neptune, and Ascendant in Scorpio. Oh, you might like this. I am planning on going to something called the Lunar Fair on October 5th. It's going to be in a place called Baderfield, which was our nation's first airport. And I just ordered another cell phone because I'm having a lot of problems with this. And hopefully it will get here in 2 weeks, and it will have a lot more storage room, so I will be able to film. Because for some reason I can't film for this anymore. All I can do is live stream, and it's driving me crazy. I got something special to show you guys. Oh, where the hell did I put it? Oh, I have something here. I'm covering up the serial numbers because I don't want it to be hacked, but this is a chip for some free cell phone airtime for something called Google Fi Wireless. I don't know if this is good for a week, 2 weeks, a month, what. A couple of days before I go to that thing, I am going to stick this in either this phone or the one that I just ordered. I ordered a cheap phone off of the site called Temu. And Timu is also where I have a bunch of things. I'm going to be doing a video about some stuff I got. Oh, did you see the video that Apple made where the guys that run it now that Steve Jobs is dead, that guy, what's his name, Tim Cook? He's the guy that runs it. It's all about the new iPhone 17 Pro and all these different things. And I'm looking at this stuff and I'm lusting over this tech, okay? When I buy technology, I am a spec head. You know what that means. I read the stuff. Now this, by the way, this is what I'm having problems with. You want to see why I can't carry this outside anymore? You see how this is all messed up? My friend came by today who is going to be taking this to be serviced at Best Buy tomorrow. So I'm not going to have use of this for a while. And I totally powered it down. The last thing I did, I had 8% left battery power. As soon as I got out of the library, yes, I'm a tech freak, Scorpio, and half the time I don't know what the hell I'm doing though. But when I came back from the library, because I couldn't log on to my Google because I have this thing called two-step authentication, they want to text me a code to my phone. My home phone is not this thing. My home phone is a landline. You can't text message a landline, okay? Now, I can tell you stories about rotary phones, but you'll probably scream at me and throw your device in the toilet, and I don't want to be responsible for you losing your tech. But anyway, I was told that I lost a bunch of screws out of this. And yes, you can make jokes about I have screws loose. Okay, so be it. But anyway, bottom line is when you carry something like this around to film and it's a cheap machine, it's going to be messed up. But I get it fixed. And I've been keeping this here so I can do my filming right here. And because I can't turn around easily, I have to jump up on here. And I'm so afraid I'm going to fall on this. But, oh boy. See, now I'm standing up on it and I'm down there. And this is my set, my messy set. And my Trump banner. And my president. El Rushbo. Oh boy. This is a souvenir from his first inauguration. Any of you guys like Matt Walsh? He does the Daily Wire. And I didn't win the lottery. None of you guys won the lottery. Trump Taco Bowl and a Diet Coke. What do I want to show you? I gotta fix this. I hate this reverse thing. See what I found in somebody's trash and I scrubbed it up real good. You guys, I have a moral dilemma. Do you see what I have in here? This is a spotted Chinese lanternfly. That is an invasive species that we're supposed to stomp to death. We're supposed to kill them because otherwise they eat our crops and stuff. Well, when I did the first live stream outside the library today, I saw it and I stomped it on camera after explaining that I was about to kill a very beautiful thing and I felt really crap about it. I love Trump, okay? But, and the thing is, I know him better than a lot of people who've never met him. I mean, I haven't met him either, but my mom has. And the thing is, he does not discriminate. He will hire trans people. He will hire gay people. He will hire lesbians. He will hire bisexual people. He doesn't care if you're black, white, Indian, whatever. He's hired lots of people from different immigrant groups. And yes, invasive species are bad for the environment. Most of them are. So here's my dilemma. I stepped on him and I thought I killed him. And I picked him up and I put him in here thinking he'll dry out and I will be able to preserve him, because some people they use things like formaldehyde and they put insects to sleep and they preserve them and they put them in boxes, and I was going to preserve him because he's beautiful. Then I put him in here and I realized that I didn't step him all the way and he's still moving around. So I'm thinking, what do? I don't want to hurt him, but I probably did. I don't know what they eat. I don't want to release them to let him go and eat our crops and stuff. And what am I going to do? Just let him starve to death here? I mean, am I being cruel to an insect? And who's to say that they don't feel pain? I mean, I don't like hurting mice, okay? When I'm outside, even cockroaches, I don't like cockroaches. Now, indoors, yes, I will step on them because I'm not that nice. But I'm not a sadist. And anything outside, that's their world. You know. But anyway, I've got this living thing. Baby, are you alive? Oh, well, maybe he is dead. Oh, I miss my cat. The last cat I had was Garfield, and he died on 9th of May. And I'm still very sad about that. I'm sad about the ones that died before him. Let me get a tissue. Hold that thought. You know what? I can carry this. Oh, let's see. Oh boy. Yeah. Let's see. This used to be where my cat's litter box was. And this is the only place I could grow plants in the house, because the mice here just chew the tops off of anything that's growing anywhere. But one of the things that really got me more into astrology is I had my chart done by somebody who was a stranger. It just took my information down, and prior to getting my chart done, I figured I was a little bit skeptical, because all I really knew of it was the general things that you saw in your newspaper. But that's just your sun sign. That's not the same thing as your natal chart. And when I had a chart done by this total stranger, and it was so spot on, it tripped me out, man. It kind of made a believer out of me. And I'm a very skeptical person until something jibes with, things that make sense in my life. Hold that for a second. Damn sinus. My sinuses just act up. Let me set this someplace. See, there's no place. I carry this thing around. I don't think of putting it on something to mount it. Sorry about that. I have one. You know what? I would have to draw that up on a chart. I used to have an ephemeris, and with ephemeris, I could look up things from, like, they have different ones. Some are good from like the 50s, the 1950s, and for like the next 100 years. But then there are people like my mother who was born before that, and you need to have something that will encompass older people too, as well as younger people. I know that charts seem to be all about potential, and they can give clues as to what a person can achieve, But it still doesn't mean that you don't have to do the legwork to make the potential do some good. Like, okay, I'll use something in my chart as an example. The last time I looked at my chart, I saw that there was a small Grand Cross. Grand Cross formations are a formation in your natal chart that they're called Grand Crosses because they have a cross shape. And they can indicate a potential and or destiny of greatness, but not always. You have to do something. You can have all the potential in the world, you can have all the seeds of something, but these interests and these talents need to be nurtured. Ambition and stick-to-itiveness and discipline need to be, they need to be fed. They need to be nurtured like a seedling that you plant, that you need to gently water and gently feed and give it enough of exposure to the elements so that it knows how to withstand when the temperatures fluctuate and when the winds blow. You have to harden off the seedling when you are growing them indoors and you're ready to transplant them. If anybody has any experience with growing things, you can't just take something that you've been growing on your windowsill and just stick it into the ground and expect that it's going to be okay. I mean, it might be, but it could very well dry up and die, and then you check it the next day. And that has happened to me a couple of times. And then I feel really bad because this may be just a seed that I grew and I've been nurturing, and I'm feeling emotionally attached to this like it's a child or like it's an animal. And I remember when my father is still alive, I would be growing in another apartment we lived in the inlet section of Atlantic City. And I grew tomatoes, I grew different kinds of leaf lettuce, I grew basil, I grew oregano, I grew sage, I grew just different things. Kale, oh my goodness, I love kale. Collard greens, I love collard greens. I'm not a southern girl, but I can learn to be, okay? I think I would live well in amongst so-called hillbillies and rednecks if they could get past my magical stuff and my however you want to categorize my dress sense. You know, I still feel I need to live in an area where I can walk around and be myself and not have everybody think that I'm a hooker just because I like to wear short skirts and stuff, because I want to still be able to be myself. I want to feel safe wearing my Trump stuff. I want to feel safe wearing my garter belts and stockings. I want to be safe with my piercings and my hair, and just be able to live and let live and not have people think that I'm up to no good. Set this. What, is this the first time you've seen me before? You haven't seen the me, the real me? This is plain old Leathur Rokk. This is me. Been doing this too many years. But, I shouldn't say that because I don't want you to think I'm old or anything, but I have a collection of Trump stuff. But I also like this. So I think I'm cool. But this is so much in my heart. The showbiz stuff, you know. Now, tomorrow morning, I'm actually going to be posting something from the can so that in case anything really bad happens to this computer, I won't lose the stuff that's in it. Now, there's one side that I have to say this very carefully because I don't want to seem like I have a prejudice against 12% or 1 out of 12 people, but I have an interesting dynamic with Aries. My grandma was an Aries. She did not respect me. She didn't like my showbiz stuff. No matter what I did, I would write to her from many movie sets and TV show sets. She was never impressed. She would always say, "Let me know when your name's on the marquee." She didn't live to see me join YouTube. Not that this is a great thing. But my first real boyfriend, a guy I lived with and stuff, he ended up stealing my car. He was emotionally abusive. He was physically abusive. He was the kind of man that ordered a woman around and made her do things against her will. And I think you know what I'm saying. And he was a good-looking guy, don't get me wrong, but very dominant, and not in a tie me up, tie me down kind of way, but in a what's mine is mine, what's yours is mine kind of way. And he was very, not the dirty things, no. When, sometimes a woman knows instinctively what's not for her, and a man can be coercive and stuff, and, men, by virtue of the fact that you're usually bigger and stronger than us, you guys usually get what you want anyway. If not with physical overpowering, it's with threats. And anyway, part of why I was scared of this person kind of is because I assumed that he was in the mafia, okay? Because he was a Sicilian Italian, good-looking Howard Stern hair when Howard Stern still had the big hair and stuff. And, he was a rock and roll drummer that happened to also have a public access TV show and whatever. And whatever power he thought he had, he would do things like threaten to take an ad out in a local rock rag, ruining your reputation, blah, blah, blah. Well, bottom line, in order for me to move out of his apartment that was our apartment, I had to move my stuff out gradually. I had a stripper job at the time, several of them actually, and I would put my stuff in my backpack or my duffel bag, and I would take it out. And I got a storage unit across from Capitol Records. If any of you guys know Hollywood, Hollywood and Vine, across the street. That's storage. I got 2 units there. And I've been paying rent. Well, the first one I got when I had to move out of our place. The second one I got in the year 2000, just before 9/11, when I had lived someplace for 6 years and I had accumulated a bunch of stuff and I needed to put it someplace. And I'm still paying rent on those things. And I really need to go back to California to ideally clean out half what's in there, put everything into one unit, and that will cut my rent in half. Because I really had intended to go back to California ultimately. I wanted to go back there, even though I know it's a belly of the beast with the liberals. They'd probably eat me alive for my Trumpiness. But that said, when the fires happened in Pacific Palisades, that changed something in me. Because I'm thinking it was always the earthquakes we were afraid of, and maybe tsunamis too. But the earthquakes, always talk about the big one. I am right now in Atlantic City, New Jersey. You live in Los Angeles. That's my heart. Los Angeles is my heart. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to sound old or anything, but I wanted to go to Los Angeles from the time I was a kid. I wanted to be where the rock stars were. I wanted to be where the palm trees were and it was warm. And I flew out there. I went to beauty school after high school, okay? So I do have skills here. Went to beauty school. At the time, I was also a security guard working midnight to 8 at what is now called Boardwalk Hall, but at the time it was Atlantic City Convention Hall. So I came from a security guard background. That was my first real job, okay? I wore a badge, I wore a blazer and a uniform, and I enjoyed it immensely, actually. But I went to beauty school, and the fumes from working on nails and things were really fucking with my sinuses a lot. I was popping a lot of vitamin C's to help me to not be sick. Well, I was being stressed out partly because things were getting a little bit stricter at work. I was starting to get hassled by some of our bosses. They were starting to give me hassles about my hair. Normally when you work midnight to 8, you're not dealing with the public as much, so you can get away with more. But they started hassling me for the purple. I was putting all kinds of streaks in my hair. I used to mix food coloring with hair conditioner and put it in my platinum bleached blonde hair. That's how I first started dyeing my hair. When I went to beauty school, I learned the proper ways to do it. But I only went to beauty school half the term, because then I took a leave of absence. Went and got a car, the only car I ever had. The car that bad boyfriend number 1 stole. It was Dodge Daytona Turbo Z, candy apple red, had a hatchback. You could shove a whole lot of stuff in it. You could fit a keg of beer in that hatchback. You could fit some amplifiers, a bunch of rockers, a bunch of guitars. You could fit a lot of stuff in that. And by the way, beer was never my poison. I was a liquor kind of girl. And I've been sober off alcohol 20 years, so that's not a part of my life anymore. I need to say this. But anyway, I decided, yes, I did love LA. So I came back after visiting for 2 weeks on a plane, saved up some more money, from working as a security guard. I bought a car, drove across the country, lived out there. And yeah, before I fell for Trump, when 9/11 happened, I fell for George W. Bush. And by fell for, I mean he became a hero to me. Now, I probably have a lot more in common with Trump than I do with Bush in certain respects. Not because I went to business school. I assure you I did not. I did not go to college. I just went to half a term of cosmetology. Now, what I didn't realize was New Jersey State Board hours are only good for 5 years. And since I was in California longer than that, by the time I came back, because I'd been taking like 2-week vacations and I'd come back. And when I stopped flying, and especially when I started having boyfriend trouble, then I would have to be gone for much longer because you're safer when you escape somebody. Well, all of a sudden, I found out that I can't go back to school because my state board hours have expired. And that means I basically wasted my tuition. I may have gotten some skills, but I can't go to work in any salon. I can't resume my training. I would have to go to school at today's dollars, have to go to school all over again. And the thing is, one of the things that beauty school taught me, in addition to learning how to do some hair and makeup and nails and crap, but it also taught me that I get greater fulfillment out of doing the skills on myself. Rather than when you're working on somebody else, you're limited to what they want you to do, because obviously they have a right to look the way they want to. So, and if it's some little old lady that just wants some real normal thing, well, then she, the customer is king. They got to get what they want, right? And I wasn't sure how artistically fulfilling that would be. And I certainly didn't want to just be working on making other young people beautiful instead of myself, when I want to be the star and I want to do this. I want to have, see, when you do your own beauty services, you have total control over what you're doing, who you are, and you can, like, I can control my hair color by putting all these different streaks and gradations in. I get exactly the way I want it, and I'm not paying somebody else to do it. I have it darker here than on here by design. I have all these different shades of purple and pink, and it's all, and I painstakingly put streak and streak, and you could see all these different colors. I did this deliberately. People would be paying real good money to have all these colors, and in a way it's kind of subtle, but in a way it's not, and it's all depending on where you look. And emotional understanding, yeah. I know I've gotten along well with Cancers. I know I get along well with Pisces. I'm thinking of friendships I've had, and I know I get along well with Sagittarius and Taurus. Taurus is more practical than I am. Taurus people tend to like their stability, and the thing is, I have been homeless before. I like to travel. I've couched towards some. I have not exactly lived a stable life when I was in California. I mean, I had an apartment of my own when I got out there after living in some hotels. And I think I'd probably do well in a commune if I could agree with people. If I could find a commune that was full of right-wingers, actually, and if they respected that I still needed time to be available, if I had a 6 a.m. time, I had to be on set. Because you could always be a movie extra in LA, and you could get a lot of work there, and that was actually the main thing I did. I was a stage dancer out there, and once I started getting, I got invited to be on a movie set. There's a movie called Point Break. Keanu Reeves was the star in that. And what do I think about Charlie Kirk? I feel like, can you let me climb on this so you could see me? I feel like somebody took a fist and punched me in the gut. I feel like somebody went into the cavity of my heart and pulled it out. I feel like I and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of others, now have targets on our backs. Those of us who have any kind of social media presence at all and who advocate for anything other than communism, socialism, the left. Well, I don't know what this age thing is. I think if people look great, they look great. I don't think age has anything to do with it. When I look at a beautiful young person, I don't think you look really beautiful, but I feel uncomfortable and guilty that I'm noticing your beauty. I could look at somebody that's older and I could think, oh my God, you're fucking hot. Like, you know who just had a birthday the other day? Joe Perry of Aerosmith. 75 years old. I'm like, what the ever-loving H-E double hockey sticks? You know, I am attracted to him. I told my mom that. She says, you have a daddy complex. But I usually am kind of cougarish. You know, I usually look at younger people, but it's not about age. It's, do I like you? You know, women. A lot of women look better older, actually. Like, okay, you'd probably be surprised to hear me say this. Jill Biden. Sleepy Joe's wife. She's beautiful, okay? I mean, she is beautiful. I'll even go so far as to say Hanoi Jane. Oh, excuse me. I shouldn't have said that. Jane Fonda. Beautiful. But politically, she and I have nothing in common except for maybe being pro-choice individuals. But, okay, Michelle Obama, another beautiful person. But then Charlie Kirk, oh my God, if he wasn't a married man, if he would go out with a witch like me, yes, well, you know what I mean. Oh, you know who else is hot? Vivek Ramaswamy. I like him too. Sleepy Joe. Oh boy. Poor Joe. You know, I'd hug him, I'd sniff his hair too. Attaboy. But, you know, I still feel bad for what ended up happening. Like, I and many people on the right used to kind of laugh and giggle about, oh, you know, yeah, you debate Trump, he's going to embarrass you so bad, you just got to make a fool of yourself. And here, when that debate did happen, and the world got to see that he really had problems with his mental acuity, and it was sad. It wasn't funny anymore. You realize that this is the world stage, and to laugh at another person's, even when you know that it's going to help the one you want to get elected, it's still, if you're a nice person, you can't really get pleasure out of seeing another person fall from grace. I don't want to be that person, but on the other hand, I'm not going to lie and say, hey, I want my enemies to be victorious. I'm willing to give up on my country. Sure, let all the bad people in. Sure, whatever. Let the rapists and murderers come on. You know, what's another pretty refugee from Ukraine getting killed at the hands of a crazy black man with schizophrenia that has a rap sheet, at least 14 incidents. He should never have been taken out of prison, or he should have been. And when your own mother says, look, this man needs to be institutionalized. He can't be out in the general population because somebody is going to get hurt. You know, it takes a lot of strength for a family member to say that. Just like, okay, the father of that terrible guy whose name I will not say, who murdered Charlie. You guys are all 21, right? You know, I have a bit of a tradition I do in a lot of my live streams. And I think you know where we're going with this. Now, if you got kids and you're using them to babysit on my channel, please, I always usually recommend people look at my content first. Look at everything I do before you think of sharing it with your family. Obviously in a live stream, you can't watch it before you let somebody see it. But whenever a stream is over, then you get to watch the replay. But a lot of times I like to inhale in my live streams. And if it's okay with you guys, now, okay, I want to answer some more questions. What about Kamala? Well, I will preface this with saying that when I lived in San Francisco, one of the mayors that was mayor when I was living there was Willie Brown. Willie Brown was a married man, and Kamala Harris was, I think she was a district attorney, or I forget exactly what she was doing, but, well, you know, she was a pot-smoking woman who put a lot of people in jail for smoking weed, especially a lot of black and brown men. And I don't understand how, I always knew of cops that smoked weed, and it always bothered me because this was before legalization. I lived in San Francisco when they finally put Proposition 215 on the ballot, which was the medical marijuana proposition. And I'm trying to think of a man's name who did this. I got to meet people like Brownie Mary. She used to bake confections with weed in it for AIDS patients and cancer patients, and she used to go to the hospitals and give them things. And I actually got to meet her at a gay pride in San Francisco. I'm not ignorant about things. I'm not inexperienced about life. And yet I still identify more and more in a conservative manner. But Kamala, I do believe that she was one of those original DEI hires, in that because of her services, and if I could, you know, I don't want to get rude here, but oh boy, I'm on my knees, if you know what I mean. Okay, so anyway, there was fairly common knowledge that she got to her positions in some nice jobs with the Democratic machine because of her dating Willie Brown. Again, a married man. And how the wife felt about that, if she knew, I don't know. But anyway, if you hear the Hawk Tua jokes, I think you know where I'm getting. Again, this is not a broadcast for children. But, so, now, she never really got elected to any office. And because of what happened with Joe Biden's presidency, she was fast-tracked. She didn't get a chance to go through the Iowa thing, you know, get introduced to all the middle America, the so-called flyover states. And in case there are anybody watching me that didn't know this, we have this thing called an electoral college, which exists to make it fair. Because if we didn't have the electoral college, if we just had direct voting, and you know, population is different areas of the country, we would have so much, because we have so much concentrated population on our coasts. I mean New York area, I mean even here in New Jersey, I mean most of California. And the people that live in the more remote areas, their votes would not get counted. And I don't know how wise I am. I'd like to think that I'm more wise than I used to be. But 9/11 forced me to get educated. I was in that showbiz political bubble of my peers. When you live and work with other actors and musicians and maybe some drug users and things, you know, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of room for diversity of thought. And even when I would come back after long Christmas vacations and I would go back to LA, I would find, as my views changed, my political evolution, I noticed almost the only other Republicans I knew were the Republicans that were Republicans because of their faith. They were born-again Christians, so they supported George W. Bush. And then they ended up supporting Trump because he seemed like he stood for things more in line with their biblical views on the world. Now, those weren't the reasons why I supported people. I support people because of all the other things. Now, who's to say that maybe in 5 or 10 years, maybe I'll decide to believe in those things. Maybe I'll turn both theist but Christian. Maybe I'll be able to believe those things. I'm not there yet. I can't pretend to be what I'm not. I am a person who I have love in my heart for the world for the most part, and respect for most people. I'm not going to love and respect a cannibal. Are you going to take a cannibal to dinner and risk them eating you and your household people? That's the danger of moral equivalency here. You know who else I am really into as far as people who are voices in media? Matt Walsh. You guys know who Daily Wire is? He has a very thought-provoking little movie called What is a Woman? That's critical of this industry, this interesting and frankly biologically creative gender ideology that is being spread by a social contagion. And there's no other way to explain it. I understand that there are gay and lesbian and bisexual people, and that's not a bad thing. It is what it is. But I also know that the people, especially the youngest people, the youngest demographics, are identifying with things in a way that most young people didn't even know these things existed. I'm not saying that there aren't people that don't know that there's things that are different about them that they can't put a finger on when they're real little, but they usually don't connect the dots and put 2 and 2 together until naturally, if they didn't have contact with other people on social media and things, they wouldn't figure things out until their teens or maybe their 20s and 30s. I mean, you can find out things about yourself quite late in life. Life has a way of giving you the freedom to explore and to consider and to wonder about things. Just like if you grow up and you get to experience other cultures and be around other people, diversity of people. What used to be part of a college experience, I'm guessing, I don't know, I never went to college, because I even seem to have an innate wisdom as a teenager and a young adult, that I knew that if I went to college in the typical college years, I would be focusing on partying, and by partying I mean drugs, I mean weed, I mean drugs, not just what I just have in my bowl and I'm about to inhale, by the way. But I was drinking, I was sniffing funny powders, all the things which thankfully I don't do anymore, because now with fentanyl and things, you don't want to be messing with those things. But I did those things. I make no secret of those things. I make no secret of no, not yet. I'm not stoned yet. I'm thinking I'm about to, but, last time I smoked any weed at all was before I went to the library. And I had to go to the library to try to get some things done that I wasn't able to do. When I came back from the library, when I charged this up again, I used the last little bit of power in this laptop to go back onto Temu. I ordered myself another cheap cell phone so that I am guaranteed to be able to have backup equipment to keep this channel alive. I need to keep this channel going at all costs. So many times something will happen, I'll have problems with equipment, and all of a sudden I can't create content at all, and I drop off the face of this earth. I can't communicate on social media. I can't go to the library to make posts on YouTube because they do this 2-step authentication thing, and they insist on sending a code to my landline phone, which is, of course, being a landline, it can't get text messages. And if it tried to send anything to this phone, guess what? You can't, because I don't have a data plan. So I don't text, I don't call with it. It's just something that is for the internet. Well, a couple hours ago, I ordered another phone. It's supposed to get here in 2 weeks. It's supposed to be twice as powerful as this, and it was still under $80. It was really cheap as far as cell phones go. Because I want to be able to live stream with it when I go to this thing called Lunar Fair on October 5th, and that is all about tarot cards and witchcraft. And yes, that would not be bad. I had one on the boardwalk. I played guitar, and well, I would get anything if I could get something free or easy to afford. So far, the best deal I saw was something called Smart Talk, and you have this thing called Consumer Cellular. Supposedly, you can get a line for $20 a month. But the thing is, for the cheapest rates, you have to be able to put on auto pay, which means you have to have a bank account. And I haven't had a bank account since the year 2000. It was Bank of America. Oh yeah, I loved it. Just when I was getting ready to go spend 10 days and nights in San Francisco, and I opened up a savings account with them. And all of a sudden, I would need unlimited. Because, any of us creating content with things, even if I go out of my way to use Wi-Fi, still, I don't know how much I'm using up creating content. It's a lot. Okay, let's take this live stream right now. Right now, I've been on for over 2 hours. 2 hours, 5 minutes, and 35 seconds and counting. And you know how big these files are. And when I stop talking to you on this, and it becomes a standalone video, it's going to be a big file. So, yeah. Now, some places like Washington, D.C., they're getting better and better as far as getting wired for Wi-Fi. When I was there, I also had double my internet access because I discovered that since we use Comcast here, I actually had a Comcast, an Xfinity login, which meant that I didn't need to go to the Wi-Fi so-called coffee room in the basement of the place that I was staying when I was in Washington. Yes, I drink coffee. Damn right I drink coffee. I like coffee. For a while there, I was cutting down on my caffeine because I was thinking I was getting heart palpitations, and that was scaring me because, my mom has heart failure. And on both sides of my family tree, heart disease is the thing, and the big C is the thing, and all that shit. Even though I've heard that smoking weed has some protective factors against the big C. And if that's the case, man, I should live forever. But then again, all the other things I did when I was younger, we don't know what impact that may have on our cardiovascular system and stuff. I mean, I was doing rails of cocaine and or speed when I was going to holiday spa, lifting weights and getting the sauna. And I remember the time I got my first running high from participating in an aerobics class. That blew my mind, the joy, the endorphin rush that you could get from physical fitness. And I'm bringing this up now because when I made a decision to get clean off of hard drugs, I had a discussion with then the God of my understanding, which at the time was YHVH, the God that people mostly talk to when they pray to God, I'm talking about people that grew up in a Judeo-Christian culture like most of us Americans did. And I used to do prayers to YHVH, your God, when I did my witchcraft too, because, figured the same thing, right? But when I made the decision to get clean off of drugs, I said to God, I'm afraid of getting fat. I'm willing to get clean, but don't let me get fat. And guess what? I got into fitness, and I started working out the different people I find on TV, and my mom's an Aquarius, by the way. No, I don't want to. See, food scares me. My mother is obese. Almost all the women in my family are fat. I don't want to be fat. I am terrified of fat, okay? I do not want to go there. And the thing is, I've been working out pretty hardcore, 4 or 5 years ago. And I mean, anytime I would see a fitness video, I would go and I would lift weights, and kickboxing is my favorite workout, and I love weights also, and you get the endorphin rush, and it's really, yeah, drugs. When I quit, I was worried. I hope I didn't quit too late, because I could see impacts in my memory, and the thing is, quitting the chemicals didn't seem to help. Now, in 2004, I quit alcohol. Again, talking to God, my understanding, which again was, I guess, kind of God at that time. And I said, if you think, and how I quit, both times, this quiet voice just sounded like me. It wasn't a big booming man in the clouds like most people think of God. It was a voice just like me, and it was saying, you can make one change in your life that would get rid of 96% of your problems. Where that number came from, I don't know. It just sounds kind of cool, I guess. But it was right. The choice I made, maybe out of desperation because I was afraid I was losing my mind and nobody wants brain damage, and I'd always been proud of the fact that I had a good head on my shoulders, that no matter if people thought I looked funny, you dress funny, blah, 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 but you have a brain, right? And to see that start to erode was a very, very terrifying thing. And now with, my father, just before he died, he ended up with Alzheimer's. And one time I came in the living room and he thought I was my mom. You never forget something like that. But anyway, I was scared sober and I was scared straight. I was scared by my own behavior and a path that I was going down. And my being a female, and women do not metabolize alcohol the same way men do. Our bodies are different. Our bodies tend to be smaller. We can't metabolize alcohol as quickly. Our livers are much more fragile. How I didn't end up dead of alcohol poisoning when I was younger. There are several times when I was 17, my first blackout drunk, I was a 17-year-old young girl. I was drinking Old Granddad. That's 114 proof bourbon. I was a serve yourself bar. My father and I went to the same party. I told the story before. It was a friend of his granddaughter's christening. It was an Italian family, and they like to have parties for things like that. And they like to drink. And it was a serve yourself bar. I took a beer stein. You know how big a beer stein is? It holds like a pint or something. Poured it with one ice cube, poured it to within an inch. Old Granddad, and I started sipping on that. How much of it I drank, I don't know, but they found me on the toilet. I almost did an Elvis Presley, not Costello. I could have died that day. Of course, I blacked out most of this. I was told that I threw up all over the seat of somebody's Cadillac. I had contact lenses in and I rubbed one of them out of my eyes. Don't remember too much of this, okay. But did I quit drinking afterwards? Hell no. I didn't quit drinking until the year 2004. But I would love, one of the many reasons why I love George W. Bush, besides what he did with 9/11, was his journey to getting sober. Like me, he used to like the cocaine. I don't know if he ever liked the amphetamines like I did, but I liked them too. But I quit that stuff. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't consider some psychedelics now. I think that's kind of a different class. Things like mushrooms, things like LSD, things like MDMA, I think that's a different class. And I'm not telling you I haven't thought of doing that now and then. But that said, I haven't either. Because, I do think that you would want to do it in the right circumstances. Like, I wouldn't want to trip real hard, trip balls, so to speak, and spill some rice here and then think it's maggots or something. I wouldn't want to see bad things, I would want to be maybe with cool friends watching a meteor shower or something. Even though with meteor shower you don't need drugs, because a meteor shower is a great natural high. If you're looking for a recommendation for natural highs, look at a meteor shower. trust me, that will hit you so profoundly and so delightfully. You don't need drugs for that. And I like to take quartz crystals. Crystals focus your energies and just make wishes for people. But, some places shrooms are legal now. Washington, D.C., both marijuana and shrooms are legal. And I heard shrooms were going around here. Okay, I'm going to go grab a tissue. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Well, first of all, I would like to think that since Trump seems to really appreciate his fans and his supporters and people who've been loyal to him since like day one, I've been a fan of his for literally years. Before he did the Apprentice thing, he was a developer. He owned like 4 different casinos here in Atlantic City. He helped to make this town better than it was. He provided my mother with a good job for like 6 years, paid our rent, paid my storage, paid my medical bills before I got insurance, because I didn't have my own health insurance as an adult until I broke this finger in 2015, I think. When I broke this finger, I needed to get surgery, and I'm the $6,000 woman. Okay, the surgery was approximately $6,000, and I needed to go on something called New Jersey Family Care or something, and which is basically Medicaid. It's for lowest income people. And because, when I'm my mother's caregiver, which you would think I would be getting paid for this, but I'm not. Her insurance doesn't pay for it. And, that nursing home that she was in, they were trying to withhold her Social Security, which is kind of a bitch because her Social Security is how she pays the rent and her health insurance premiums. But she and I still need to actually find a 2-bedroom apartment. This is like 4 or 5 bedrooms, depending on how you count the rooms and whether a room is counted as a bedroom or not. Because the other person that lives here, he actually took what's supposed to be our living room. Okay, I'm trying to read something. I didn't need nothing but your inner strength to quit a habit. That's right. My mom, she used to smoke cigarettes, and she quit tobacco cold turkey when I was a little girl of 6. They didn't have patches. The only thing they had to help people quit smoking in those days was hypnosis. My mother has always been a handle it kind of person. She believes in willpower. She believes in what we now know as paradigm shifts. When your worldview changes, and to me it's like when, say this light was out. I come in the room, you turn the light on, right? You expect to be able to turn lights on and off. By the way, I don't turn this light out in the summertime because the electric's all messed up in this condemned building, which it is. And if I turn this light out, the light won't come on anymore. So I have to sleep with a sleep mask on so the lights don't stay in my eyes. That's kind of messed up, but that's the way it is. And the reason why we were supposed to be out, if you didn't know already, we were supposed to be out January 6th. How ironic. And the thing is, they gave us the notice to be out in the middle of December. Once Trump won the election, I knew that I was going to go to Washington, D.C. to attend the inauguration and whatever, even though it was so terribly bitter cold. That was, I could deal without the cold. But my mother got a lawyer. She qualified for one as a lower income and senior citizen. They have services for older people, and they have senior services and stuff. I'm sorry, I was distracted by the sound of a mouse chewing something. You better not be chewing my stuff. I'm not abusive to the mice. My mom, she pokes at them and she yells at them and stuff. I talk baby talk to them, but I don't want them eating my stuff. Anyway, where are we? Yeah, I just interrupted myself and I don't really remember where I was going with that. But yeah, we are firm believers in, when you need to make a change in life. When something isn't working. What is the stereotypical definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. If we're doing a drug over and over and all of a sudden it's not working for us anymore, why are we still doing it? Why are people doing drugs that they don't enjoy? At least the thing that I do, I enjoy. Now, I'm gonna stand over here, so please don't let your kids watch this, okay? I'm over 21, I'm grown. I enjoy this, and I'm gonna have some. It's a shame this is all reversed. Makes it hard to read things. This is a scent by Victoria's Secret. I don't know if they still make it. It's called Love Spell. And I'm just mentioning this because I think it's ironic that it's called this. About 10 years ago, maybe longer than that, when my family, my extended family, most of which is in Western Pennsylvania, they used to do a Pollyanna every Christmas, where the people that are not in your immediate family, you know how, for those of us who celebrate Christmas, holidays like that, you know how you celebrate with your family at home, and you do the gift exchange or whatever. But extended family, sometimes they have this thing called Pollyanna, where the extended family, they have a meeting once a year, and they put all the names of all the other people in the family, the extended family, they put it in a hat, and everybody, they mix it around, and everybody blindfolded, pick a name out, and that's the person that you buy for. And so I got a gift set of fragrances. It was all Love Spell set by Victoria's Secret. Now, if you don't know a person, scents got to be one of the hardest things to buy for them, because how can you tell what a person's gonna like? I mean, that's just a guessing game. But I don't know how this woman did. She hardly knew me. She was like a distant aunt. She is an aunt. She's the wife of one of my mother's brothers. And while I kind of always idolized my aunts and uncles, when they got married, the only one that I is deeply fond of is the ones that are blood related to us, was my Uncle Bob, who is my mom's sister's husband, he's this biker guy that he runs a car, like not an auto body shop, but like a mechanic shop. He has a little gas station and does mechanic work and stuff. And when I was a little girl, he used to take me to stock car races. He rides a motorcycle. He is this hippie kind of guy that works with his hands and is an honest mechanic, and just was a real fun uncle. You know, he would teach me some Italian cuss words that I don't know are real. Like, he would say, "Stas," and he said that was "shut the fuck up" in Italian. And of course, it might very well probably not be, but since I rather do like my potty mouth, I just thought he was a fun uncle, and we haven't lost him. So he was there was a little bit of an age gap between him and the lady he married, and so now his health is a little fragile, and we're worried about him. But anyway, another aunt who married the other of my mother's brothers, she had got me this stuff. And if you're not familiar with this love spell stuff, it smells a lot of grapefruit. It doesn't have any musk in it. It doesn't have any vanilla. It's very citrusy, but to me, it smells like you're biting into a big, juicy grapefruit. But it's not so sour or bitter. It's sweet because you put honey on it. And that's what this smells like. But the picture that's actually on it is that of a purple hydrangea. Now, hydrangeas, their color can be dependent on the acidity of the soil. Did you know that? Hydrangeas that grew in my grandma's backyard, they were white, and she called them snowball bush. But it was because I think their soil was more alkaline, and there's more clay in their soil. Our soil here in Atlantic City, New Jersey, it's right by the ocean. It's right by the beach. So there's a lot of sand in it. There's more drainage. There's also a greater pH. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit of green thumb stuff if you didn't already know this. Just because in these live streams, I could talk about everything under the sun. Did you know that an easy way to affect change in the pH of your houseplants, if you have ashes of any kind, that could be tobacco ashes, or in my case, I produce weed ashes. Ashes will add alkalinity to the soil. Now, you heard of potash? Now, if you want to fix nitrogen into the soil, soak some beans, wash some beans, right? And dump that water out. We dump that on your plants. Then soak your beans. You don't want to soak your beans in the dirty water that you use to clean your beans with, but you soak your beans in the water after you wash them. Soak them for up to 24 hours. That water will be infused with nitrogen. Put that on your house plants. Put that on your garden plants. Another good natural fertilizer is when you eat a banana, save the skin. First, you take you brush your teeth, right? Then you take the banana skin and you rub them on your teeth. That supposedly strengthens them, supposedly cleans them. Of course, don't judge my with that, because I have weed tar and coffee and tea, and anyway, I never said that my mouth was anything to write home about, so forget it. But anyway, then you take the banana skin, tear them up, stick them in water, let them soak. I don't know how long you do it. You don't necessarily want it to rot and smell bad, but you let the water get kind of brown, use that to water plants. That adds nitrogen to plants. Okay, now I'm getting a battery is low thing on this cell phone. Now, I imagine I can still do this if I plug it in, right? I just do it plugged in like when I do my laptop thing. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to go to a plug, and that means I'm going to have to go to another room. Let me see if there's any more, just in case I want some more. I'll bring this someplace else. bring this in here where the light is. I can turn the light on here, but I did something to this, and that light won't go on anymore, so it's always going to be kind of dim in here. But this is a good enough light or wall plug. The only thing is sometimes it slips out because I like the ones that are down flat. One thing I noticed when you plug in on the new Greyhound buses, which by the way have free Wi-Fi, it's spotty, but it does work. If you're new to my channel, I have a video where I review what the modern Greyhound bus is like, and I show the features like the changes in the seats and the Wi-Fi, and each seat has a plug-in, and they do this thing called assigned seating now, which, believe it or not, if you sit where they ask you to sit, because a lot of times there's so few people on the buses, you're never up in anybody's face, you have more privacy, you can play your devices, you can live stream from them, you can make videos from them. I did these things, well, except for the live streaming bit. The internet was too spotty for that. But now, if you had a data plan or something, then you could do that. But the thing is, to save money, I'm doing everything I can to save money. And saying that, I have to address a comment that a viewer made a couple weeks ago where they... Oh, geez. Okay, you see what I did? I just dumped my weed into the sink. And this was in the bowl, but the actual weed itself didn't fall into the sink, except for like one or two little places here. See, I can't afford to get careless. Anyway, I made videos about uh, Washington, D.C. I believe it's in my Washington, D.C. playlist. You know, I know though when you're traveling from one place to another, then you start to think, okay, which playlist should this go in because I'm actually on the road, you know. But another reason why I'm getting this other cell phone that is like $10 more expensive but has double the storage, in case it tries to give me the same error message that I can't use it after 70 gigabytes. I want to still be able to create content. I mean, bottom line, a YouTuber can't be without filming stuff. I can't do that to my audience. I can't do it. I know what it's like when you're watching something on TV and you got a show you like, and all of a sudden it got canceled or something, or all of a sudden it got they signed contracts so that they got moved to another network, and you don't know what that network is, or it's a network is on a higher tier on your cable system, so since you can't afford the higher tier, you don't get it, you know. So you don't get to see your shows until maybe a couple years later, then you get to see a whole bunch of old episodes, you know. And then if you're lucky, you get to binge watch them. And there are some series that I got to watch, you know, some guilty pleasures. There's a lot of TV my mom gets me into. All the cowboys and Indian stuff she got me hooked on. And some of the comedy stuff she got me hooked in. But then I've been trying to red pill her with Fox News. One of the things I like to do when she sleeps, because she keeps the TV on a lot. Sometimes she wakes up in the middle of the night and she actually does turn the TV off. But part of the reason why I keep the TV on is because I used to be a person that demanded total quiet and total darkness when I slept. But you can't, if you're used to quiet and then all of a sudden you have random public disturbances like what happened when you live in an urban neighborhood, then that is just too destabilizing and too jarring and too unpleasant. So it's better to have something, either a white noise thing like a fan, or something quiet. Like for a while there, I had the TV on, but not loud enough so that I could hear it, because if your brain is actively interested in it, then you can't fully relax and let yourself sleep, because maybe parts of your brain is actually paying attention, and so you don't shut down all the way. But that said, I have done things like put a radio station on static, And in fact, that was one of my witchcraft techniques I did. I lived in LA, and I had, for a temple space, well, first of all, I made bedrooms out of tiny little walk-in closets. And this was the best room. It was, okay, imagine this apartment had a living room. And the thing is, I was the only non-smoker, and I needed a way to keep the tobacco smoke from seeping out. Well, this living room had two closets attached to it. One was a little tiny closet that was, well, actually it was walk-in, so it wasn't little tiny, but it wasn't big enough that you could put a mattress in. But it had a little clothes pole and room for me to have a little table and a series of milk crates on top of it that I was able to use as bookshelves and stuff. And this other bigger closet was big enough to have a small, I guess, a cot and a mattress. And above, say, all right, I will use this as an example. I can't walk out of here because this I'm attached to the cord here. But okay, say this is the entrance to the room. Okay, I'm going to guess that there's not too dissimilar length that room was. I walk in to, this is the entrance. Say this was the living room and this is the door. I could tape, okay, there is an entrance here, but then say where this wall is, there is another entrance here that led directly to the living room. Well, this door, since I only needed one entrance, and they were vertically like right here and here, both weren't needed, I actually used duct tape to seal the tobacco smoke from coming in this way. The smoke didn't come from the other door because it was ventilated by the hallway, if that made any sense. Well, anyway, say this was the entrance to my bedroom. Well, if I walked down to here, this was where the bed started. And the bed went to the wall. Then where those plants are, if you stood on the bed, there was a clothes pole and a shelf over top of it. And you could hang whatever clothes on pole you wanted, even though I didn't want them getting my face, so I rarely did, except they were short things like mini skirts or something. But the shelf I used as my altar. And to do my magic stuff, what I did was, okay, this is the entrance to my room. I walk in, there was a little tiny table here with a couple of milk crates that I had wired together using those temporary no parking signs LA has, which is basically cardboard with two little holes in them, and then you use like chicken wire. And that's how they were attached to poles, and I would take them down, and you could use the no parking sign. The other side, you could use that as like a poor man's art canvas. And the wiring I used to attach stacked milk crates together so that they would not shift on toward your bed by the fan that's attached to the milk crates. And you could have like books on them and stuff. And I also had a radio, and I would just put it on a staticky thing, which would just, blot out the sounds of my roommates, of the street, because I was on, one of my apartments was on Wilcox and Yucca, where it was across the street from a liquor store and a laundromat, and then there was a grocery store that was primarily Spanish. They played Spanish music, the kind you want to dance in the aisles, and they have these giant things of dry beans that are literally, the barrel is like over almost chest high. Yeah, that's what, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, and you have the big scoops, and you can weigh the dry beans in the bags and buy it that way. You can buy stuff in bulk. My favorite thing to get bulk in these Mexican markets is hibiscus. Believe it or not, those purple flower petals that are dried, and you make them into a tea. You have to sweeten it, and it tastes like hot lemonade. It is so wonderful, and they say it has a lot of health benefits. I think it helps with blood pressure regulation and maybe cholesterol. I don't know, but it's a good thing. And do I need sleep? You know what? I probably do, because Saturday mornings I like to get up early and go to this certain park, where if you guys watch the video that I'm going to post tomorrow morning, what it is you see my computer is being taken in for servicing around noon tomorrow. A friend of mine's taking it to Best Buy. So the only thing I'm going to have to go do internet stuff is going to be the cell phone. And the thing is, it was not letting me do standalone videos. It told me that it was filled up, even though it's not. For, say I don't have use of that cell phone or that computer for a week. That's going to be screwed, because all I'll have is this. And if I can't create standalone content, I'm going to be doing a hell of a lot of live streaming. But anyway, what I have scheduled to be posted to YouTube is a fashion-oriented video about a thrift store clothes haul that I got for myself. Where I'm going tomorrow morning, which is another reason why I shouldn't be staying up all night. Where I'm going tomorrow morning, sometimes I get clothes and stuff. Sometimes I get clothes from my mom. I need to get her some things. Not clothes oriented, but hygiene oriented. And I'm going to be someplace where I'm going to see a lot of my homeless brothers and sisters. And of course, I'm sure people are going to be talking about Charlie. And I am going to be going to a place called the Red Door. It's not actually what it's called, but it's a place that a lot of people call it. I don't know if I should actually say the name of the place. Well, you know what? I don't think it would be harmful if I did. It's called Asbury United Methodist Church. They have, for some people, they actually have a shelter called Beacon of Hope. Yes, I met him one time. I met Charlie Kirk one time, and it was fairly recently. It was in Washington, D.C. I was waiting in line to try. Now, I've seen him on stage before. And I have been in Washington, D.C. when Turning Point was there. The first time I had an encounter with Turning Point actually was in 2000. I guess it was 2017. Trump had gotten elected, and I was there for his first inauguration. Excuse me. And I was hanging out in Lafayette Park, where it's a park across from the White House, and one of my dear friends who, when I stay with, who's kind of a Nazi, and I'm saying that because if you're part of the Free Palestine movement and you believe in the people that are blaming Israel for everything, how is that any different than the Nazism? If you're accusing Jews of genocide, if you ignore what happened October 7th, when all those people were massacred, slaughtered, all those women were raped, the children were burned, the families were burned, all those disgusting, depraved things that were done to the Jewish people October 7th. And I'm sorry I'm getting emotional about that, but I know how traumatized I was about that. But Charlie, fast forward to Donald J. Trump's second inauguration. Unlike the first one, where it was like in the middle 50s with a slight drizzle, it was not bad, freezing, disgustingly cold weather. This time it was treacherously, deadly cold weather. It was like 7 degrees or 9 degrees or something. I had to wear so many layers and things, and I only got to wear my mini skirt like 2 or 3 times during the 3-week period I was there because it was so freezing cold. Anyway, hey, Fishman, hey, Damien. Anyway, getting back to my Charlie Kirk story. When I went to see Trump this time around, I was planning on getting there about the 17th so that I could settle in and see if there was any other pro-Trump things before the actual main events, which of course was the victory rally at the Capital One Arena. I had to find out where that was. And now I wanted to create content so seriously. That's where I bought my first cell phone, was in Washington, D.C. I went there with a very old iPad, which I took with me to my 2 attempts to see Trump. And the first one was about that victory rally. And that was, in order to get there, you have to go through the crowd control thing where, you're whining and it's taking forever, and you're passing by people selling all kinds of Trump merch and stuff, and I'm filming all this stuff, and then it seems like it's taking forever. And at one point, this very good-looking man with dark hair and dark eyes and kind of tan skin, like a guy that likes to be outdoors and stuff. Real good looking, real hot, tall drinker, married man water, who happened to be Charlie Kirk. Now, I'll set this up for you. I was in the line with many people waiting to see Trump the day before his actual inauguration. And I was wearing, ultimately, I had to wear blue sweatpants and long johns underneath it and a bunch of long sleeves because it was really freezing cold. And I had 2 little jackets, but the jacket that you could see was a red jacket, of course, because you have to be MAGA, right? But the thing that you could see as far as my outfit was a floor-length red, white, and blue gown. Okay, and what else you got to wear for an inauguration? You're going to do the red, white, blue thing, right? I had a Trump pin, a rhinestone Trump pin that I bought, that I had down on my lapel. Everything was Trump, right? Well, this good-looking man called me over and asked me if I was conservative and what made me conservative, basically what my philosophical evolution was. And I told him that I was a post-9/11 kind of conservative. And I told him what red-pilled me was George W. Bush's leadership and that wonderful darling of the airwaves, Rush Limbaugh. And how I had always appreciated Rush's entertaining, his humor, his intelligence. Before I started agreeing with him more and more, I really appreciated him and gave me a lot of food for thought. And then, of course, when 9/11 happened, and I was economically and career-wise bounced out of LA and found myself back here and trying to adjust to a very different life, a very different world. And I was so homesick for LA, but so terrified of what are we going to do now? And our oceans can't keep us safe. And the whole idea of this violent attack on our self. And because I had the TV in the living room and the couch in the living room and a TV all in myself because my parents had a TV in their bedroom, I ended up discovering Fox News Channel. And I already liked all kinds of AM radio, and so, listened to some talk radio, and I was already familiar with people like Glenn Beck and Sean Hannity. And anyway, that's how I became more and more right-wing. And I went to George W. Bush's second inauguration because, I was a left-winger when 9/11 happened. I voted for Clinton, and I remember that year when it took us a whole month to find out who our president really was, and the controversy over the hanging chads in the state of Florida. I remember that well. And I remember, because I'm an election day baby. One of my birthdays was on an election day, that day that we were trying to find out if it was Bush or if it was going to be Clinton. And I was sitting in a British expatriate bar called the Cat and the Fiddle in Los Angeles. It's on Sunset Boulevard near Gower. And it's a place where if you like guys and girls with British accents, and you like bangers and mash, and you like newspapers that talk about the people who are trying to move from England to the United States, or trying to move from the United States to England, or people, this whole cross the pond thing going on. It was just a real exciting place to hang out. You're eating your free food, you're watching the TV, trying to find out who's our next president. And I was a little disappointed that the food wasn't as flavorful as I would have liked, I hate to say. I mean, I like sausage, I really do, but it was very mild. And when it comes to my mashed potatoes, I like them much drier and much stiffer, and I actually like them lumpy. I don't want them soupy. I don't want them creamy. I like them kind of like if I made my mashed potatoes, say, I would take them and I would want to know that I could throw it up against the wall and it would just automatically run down like shaving cream. I want it to kind of be really sturdy, you know. But I got to realize that so much of what I thought about life and the world was wrong. But I also know that my time spent independently living in Los Angeles, actually the way I was raised, I've always been a fiscal conservative. I've always been very good with my money. I've always been able to make money last. I was always able to, like, I always was very frugal. If there was, I always looked for sale racks first. When I was a little girl, my mom would take me with her. She'd go grocery shopping. She taught me about unit pricing. She taught me about couponing, using basic grade school arithmetic, half of which I have lost the memory of being able to do, sad to say. I mean, I could do addition and subtraction, but some of that other stuff, you gotta use it or you lose it. I'm telling you. One of the good advantages to actually getting married and having kids is you're forced to not forget things because you have to help kids with homework, and watching your kids' education, I think, refreshes you about things, and I think that's really wonderful. I'm so lucky that my mom had a college education when it could mean something. She had been a high school English teacher, so she wouldn't allow me to slack off on anything. She was all discipline was something that was instilled in my family. And as a practitioner of metaphysics, discipline is crucial. You have to master thyself. You have to be able to delay quick gratification and save and shut out distractions and go for or generate the energy and pinpoint focus. It's a real thing. Now, that said, at the risk of sounding a little bit heretical, one nice thing I like about the herb is it can enhance my ability to do a pinpoint focus on one thing as opposed to letting the mind wander. It's one thing if during meditation your mind wanders a little bit, and occasionally, I mean, you can refocus it to thinking of nothing. Okay, I get that. But with weed, I am perfectly able to just zone in on this one specific thing when I need to, and it can really be an enhancement in that regard. I'm not saying it's a necessity. I'm just saying it's a nice tool to have. It's a nice side effect of the cannabinal experience. I hear so many things about how pot makes you lazy, pot you don't get things done. Well, then how come I can do a bunch of housework at 3, 4 in the morning? And by housework, I mean washing dishes, which you see these dishes here. I do them by hand, preferably in the sink because it's cleaner. You know, um, I do them one at a time. I rinse them out, then I dry them in my mom's room. I have them up against something over not too far from the television. And as a matter of fact, I have a bunch of things that are already dry there that I got to take out of there and put away because sometimes what happens is I go and wash something and it's wet and I got to take it to where it drips dry and then I realize that there's no room because I got all these other things that happen to be over there and stuff. But yeah, I'm always doing uh, dishes. And I'm always doing hand laundry. And the thing is, every time I do a different video,
even if I'm only wearing it for a half hour, like I spend vastly more time doing prep for a video than filming the actual video itself. I do research for some of my content, and I mean, which could involve watching the news. It could involve doing internet searches and stuff. But then I have to worry about my props, and I have to make sure that my hair and my makeup is right. And I gotta make sure that I'm wearing exactly the colors I want to wear. And that's a very deliberate choice because I want to try to make them not match what I had in the last video they saw, even though sometimes the order that I post things in doesn't give me the variety of colors that I would want just for the visual variety. Because, like, okay, you have to take into account there are the standalone videos you do. And then there are, of course, when you go live, you're going to be wearing something. But then once the live stream is over, then it becomes another standalone video. And you never have any way of knowing what order people are going to watch your stuff in. There are some people that they just watch your content because they like you. They don't really care what you're talking about. They just tune in to see what you have to say. And frankly, those are my favorite audience people because then those are the people with which I feel I could totally be myself. And I know that I have more of a greater chance of them appreciating me, the real me, as opposed to, oh, they only put up with me because I touch on one subject they happen to like. But then I know there are some people who, when I was doing my makeup tutorials, they were real into beauty content. And there are some people that like the fashion stuff more. Then there are some people that love the politics more. Then there are some people that love the gardening stuff. Then there's some people that like the cat stuff. And in the family stuff, which I think is the most important part of my channel, really, I think is the politics and the family stuff. So all this stuff when I went in the hospital, in a nursing home, my mom and stuff, you don't think she is the most important thing in my world right now. My cats are dead. I didn't get married. So I don't have kids. And I tell you, I've not brought children into the world unmarried. That's not something that our family believes in. That I guess that makes me a little on the old-fashioned side. But children deserve stability, and they deserve to know that they're loved, and they deserve to grow up in an environment where they can make a cause and effect relationship. So they learn about the value and necessity of and nobility of work and selflessness and sharing and helping others and just values and respecting your elders and respecting institutions. Until life happens and you start to have reasons of your own to not respect, but at least start out with respecting. There are things that have caused me to get disillusioned in life. Of course, I think it's hard to go through life without becoming jaded by some things or becoming disappointed by some things, or, you hold on to a dream and an ideal, and when life doesn't turn out quite like you expected, or when people disappoint you, as they often do, or when the expectation didn't happen, or when rain falls in your life, and they say in every life some rain must fall. I think we all go through something, unless we have tragedies very, very, very early. I think most of us really do think that we're going to escape grief. I was one of those people. I mean, aside from, okay, losing my first cat. And that was really sad for me because, my mom didn't tell me when it happened first because he died apparently very soon after I left for California when I first moved out there. And I felt very, very guilty about it. And now, in retrospect, if I had known that he was as sick as he was, I would have delayed going out there. But then think of how my life would have changed, the experiences I would have missed out on, and most likely I wouldn't have had all the other ones. And plus that would have kept me from being able to meet the guys and kiss, and to be able to be in some of the rock videos I was in and stuff. So I mean, I probably would have wanted to make it out there earlier, actually. Okay. I can't fix whatever's going on my screen right now because my garter belt just undid itself. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, I guess we could all go back in our life and think, I wonder how things would have turned out differently if I made this change. And they say that just one different action could totally change things. You know, like, okay, 3 years ago, I was crossing the street around here and I almost ran into somebody in a van or something and I almost got killed. I mean, I tried to downplay how lucky I was, but it was just like on TV where I was starting to step off and it was going fast and I literally uh, could have died that day. I'm from Atlantic City. Have I ever manifested energy balls that light up? I have seen energy balls. I have seen them float, kind of. I have not seen them light up. I have seen pictures of people that people have taken of them, and I think if they're the same thing that they call orbs, but now, as far as manifested energy balls that light up, that's implying that you're actually making a conscious decision to manifest them. That's not something I've ever tried, but the things that I do actively work on manifesting tend to be things of more tangible use to me in the real world than things of that nature. Um, I try to manifest things for other people, such as healing. Um, that a lot of times, unfortunately, doesn't seem to work. I mean, especially if you see somebody just got shot in the throat and you find out about it on the news and you light a candle and you do your and then you find out the president just made an announcement that the man has passed away. And, okay, let's just say it. I have not proven myself to be a miracle worker. Okay, probably the biggest thing I was ever able to do with somebody was I knew some guy with AIDS some years ago, and I was able to elevate his T cells temporarily. I had a friend that lived in Australia, in Brisbane, and she got bad migraines. With some candle work, I was able to help her with her headache one time. But I have not done any miracles or anything. I used Ganesha to try to help one of my cats who was sick, and that did buy me some extra time. The Ganesha working probably gave me more 6 months or a year or something. I don't know. Who's to say? But the thing is, usually when I work with other deities, you can view them as aspects of your subconscious. A lot of practitioners don't necessarily see them literal, but however you perceive them doesn't matter so long as it works and makes sense for you. Like sometimes, so many of us, we're so used to living in a dominantly Judeo-Christian culture, so it's not always easy to feel at home dealing with some of these pantheons where the deities have, like, say, the head of a bird and the body of a man, like some of the Egyptian deities, for instance. You probably can't easily picture these entities walking around. But if you go back in time to those days, that would be very real to the people that lived there, and we have to keep that in mind. Let's go ahead 5,000 years from now. Do you think Christianity will still be a thing, or do you think that's going to be talked about in museums? Do you think they have some, as of now, not imagined theology, or do you think that it will remain? Now, we do have some followers of even some of the older religions now. There are some people that have rediscovered, for instance, deities in the Roman pantheon, in the Greek pantheon, the Norse pantheon. For instance, I liked Hinduism myself. I liked Ganesha. I felt very warm and delighted with Ganesha. I enjoy hanging out in ISKCON events. That's International Society for Krishna Consciousness, who are very similar to Orthodox Hinduism, but one big difference I'm ascertaining, just my my observation as a Westerner, is they seem to, whereas Hinduism is very much polytheistic and they have temples devoted to so many of the gods, with the Hare Krishna movement, you mostly see the emphasis seems to be on Krishna and his consort Radharani, and they have these deities that are actually the flat stones that are painted black. That is oh, Lord Jagannath. If you've seen the smiling faces that look like they're black faces, but it's not a minstrel show, it's just faces on stones, that's Lord Jagannath. No, New Jersey. I wish I lived in New York. Atlantic City is used to be famous for the Miss America pageant, but they got rid of that. That was kind of depressing because that was one of the few things that made me a little bit proud to be from here. The first year in California, I still had my New Jersey plates. Whenever I go for gas, somebody would invariably say, "What part of Jersey are you from?" And it became a real conversation piece. The only thing is, after a while, the cops got tired of seeing me around, and they actually gave me a fix-it ticket, and they literally impounded my car. And well, I was just coming from my place of employment at the local dancer place, and so I had enough tips in me on me that I could take care of it on the spot, and I had to get it registered in the state of California. And there they make you do smog things and everything, which that's not too different from this thing that I remember they put New Jersey drivers through. I can't remember what it's called, but there's something else. And I know you guys get a sticker in your windshields here. Okay, I'm walking to the hallway because I gotta blow my nose and I don't want to do it for you guys. I'm thinking I still want to get in that park tomorrow, and the good stuff seems to start happening at 8:30, and it's what 2:30 something now. I could, in theory, pull an all-nighter, and because really the only thing I have to do tomorrow, okay, this is Friday night, tomorrow's Saturday. I want to do this thing where I go in the park and I hang out with my buddies, and then I go to the Red Door and either eat lunch there or bring a plate for my mother, or eat and bring a plate home, depending on what they have. Sometimes they don't have anything I like, but I'll bring things home for her. I made shrimp scampi today for her. I did it a totally different way. I didn't have time to make it before I went to the library because I absolutely had to go there. Because I was trying to go and order the new cell phone on Temu there, but I wasn't able to do that in the library. But anyway, I deveined the shrimp before I left, and one thing I did is I tore it up and I fried it up most of the way. Then I took the fire off. I started to boil water for the pasta, and I realized that was going to take way too much time. So I said, I'll do that when I get back. When I got back, I boiled water for the pasta, and I always break my spaghetti in threes, right? Then I got the shrimp back out. Now I cut up an onion, chopped that up, threw that in with the oil. Then I found a red sweet pepper, and I tore that up real small, and I threw that in with the shrimp. So it was mostly shrimp, but it was a little bit of pepper and onion. And I used the last of something that had garlic in it. Usually I use a good fair amount of garlic, especially if everybody loves garlic. Garlic is good for you. Garlic's maybe not good for your social life, but it's a good thing. And if you think you're coming down with something, it's really good to, I knew this guy from the Choctaw Indian tribe. I was working on a commercial in LA. It was a cigarette commercial, by the way. And cigarettes now, I really kind of wrestled taking that gig because I don't smoke tobacco, and I thought it was kind of a bit immoral to take the money, but it wasn't like I was just an extra in it, but the money was good because we all got SAG wages. And are you going to turn down a gig on principle when you really need the money? So I took the money. It was for a German cigarette company called West, and even though it was shot in Los Angeles, it was only going to be filmed in the German market. And what it was is everybody in the background was some kind of alternative looking, punks or punk rockers mostly, some gothics also. And the Choctaw Indian guy, he had the most magnificent mohawk, and he looked like Yul Brynner in The King and I. So, this beautiful, baldy, but Indian, and oh, he was wonderful. And he taught me a lot of things about things, about shamanism and different things. And one of the things that he said is about chewing garlic cubes and how you chew them and then you work out. And the thing is with garlic is that even if you brush your teeth, you sweat it out. So, I mean, you're going to smell like it. But you work out, right? And if you're coming down with a cold or sick in any way, the garlic has a lot of healing properties. If you can get past the not wanting people to be around you kind of thing. So I would definitely do it during times when you can avoid people. But he was really great. He was somebody that I enjoyed hanging out with on the movie sets and the video sets and stuff. And one of many things I really missed about Los Angeles. But when 9/11 happened, almost everything stopped. I got 2-day video thing with a band called Lit. The song was called Lipstick and Bruises, and the video featured this giant robot that was giving haircuts. That was something to do with the visual theme of the movie. And I remember certain things about that set. It was the 4th and 5th of October. 9/11 had recently happened. And literally, this is the only work I'd had since then. And then, of course, by mid-December, I was back on the bus back here. But one of the things I remember from that movie set, that rock video set, is they didn't have coffee at all until like 11 o'clock at night. And another thing, I had ankle foot pains from like an old dance injury, which now I know to be that funny thing that I feel in my feet every once in a while. But it was the first time I ever experienced that pain. It was the kind of thing where I actually had to get a brace, the ace bandage, and I had to wrap my foot. And I was wearing high-heeled sneakers and fishnets, and I was glad that the camera only panned to like your calf, because I didn't want to be looking, something about an ace bandage. I didn't think it was the most glamorous look, but when your ankle's going out on you and you're having this weird twisty pain when you step forward, I'd never experienced that kind of pain before. And since it was my first time experiencing it, it's something that I just well, I never forgot, you know. And also, it was kind of unusual for craft service to not have coffee. And you would think, why would anybody want coffee at 11 o'clock at night? But, well, you know, showbiz isn't a normal life. And actors, we're not normal. The schedule is not a normal person's schedule because you're on the set as long as the production needs you. Sometimes things need to go very late. Sometimes you have to be on the set, camera ready at 6 a.m. But when you are, they always have food available. They have these made to order omelet and scrambled egg stations. Lunches are just, I mean, it's amazing. It's just the things that you have access to. And because they have people working on them, some of them are also from England, so you have extra condiments and things that you haven't heard of, but people from other cultures have. So just, it's mostly serve yourself, and you just get, it's like the ultimate buffet, you know. Uh, I really can't complain about any of the food I've ever had on sets. Even some of the Rokk videos, one time for a Bon Jovi video, all they had was box lunches and you had a choice of 3 different things. And some people were complaining about that. I wasn't complaining. You know, there was nothing bad about anything, you know. But, you know, I love working on that Rokk video because it was shot in downtown LA, and they actually steam cleaned one of the tunnels to make it look like a tunnel going from New Jersey to New York. But it was in Little Tokyo, actually. And there was this guy that I met that got onto the set, but he would never be able to get paid for it, though, because he wasn't an American citizen. He was actually a Japanese national that was in Los Angeles on vacation, and he was a huge American rock fan. So he was just going to have some real happy memories to tell his friends when he got back to the States, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I should see. I'm afraid if I go to sleep. First of all, if I was to end this, say I ended it right now, okay. Well, first of all, I have to wash my face. Then I have to take a shower. Then I would have to obviously change into whatever I sleep in, right? And unfortunately, even when I'm tired, I don't usually fall asleep as soon as I hit the pillow. Sometimes it takes me an hour or two. Now, if I'm in theory supposed to be at this thing 8:30 in the morning, that's pretty much when the good happenings start in the parks, you know. Because the thing is, sometimes people drop off bags of clothes there, okay, and it just, you never know what amazing thing you're going to find. And since I'm the person that likes the sequin stuff, the short dresses, the cute things. Which brings me to something. I have already scheduled for publishing anytime after 9 o'clock in the morning. I have a video already in the can, and it's actually not a political one. I needed to post it even though I'm not in the mood for non-political content right now, but I needed to post it because my computer is going to be taken in for servicing. I don't know when I'm going to get it back, and until then I'm going to be stuck with only this for content creation. So I needed to get things out of the computer and posted so that if the worst happens and the hard drive gets affected, I won't lose too much, you know. But you know, I'm really concerned about the fragility of that computer. And that's the thing, is I would love to, you know, there's so many things I would love to do on the West Coast. You know, in Los Angeles, they have a special YouTube lab. They have this building that YouTube owns. The thing is that I would have to get a lot more subscribers to be able to unlock this privilege. If you get to be a big enough channel, you can actually get real professional studio space there with beautiful views in one of those high rises somewhere in downtown LA, I think it is. And can you imagine the sunsets and the sunrises from a tall building in Los Angeles? Not that I like tall buildings and earthquakes or anything. I don't think it's a good mix. You know, one of the things that I never will be ceased to be blown away by is a couple of years after I left LA, I noticed that they completed this skyscraper near Hollywood and Vine. Not a year after it was done, they redid the seismic maps. Found out there's a new earthquake fault line that they didn't know about that was practically right there. Gee, didn't think about this, did you? I never thought that you should have any buildings over 4 stories. Actually, that's as high as I ever lived out there, and I know what it's like to run down the fire escape or down the steps to get down as fast as possible. Now, I love to look at them. Yes, I've been up to the observation deck of the Transamerica Pyramid building. You don't go all the way to the top. You only go to the crotchety part. And the thing is, since we live in a 9/11 world, maybe they don't even let you get that high. Now, my mother has been to the torch in the Statue of Liberty because it was before 9/11 and she was affiliated with Boy Scouts of America, so she got some access. How often do I get on YouTube? I have a daily upload schedule. And I've been live streaming more and more because people like it when I do it. Even though sometimes when I come on and nobody's on, then of course I'm gonna cut it short because there's nobody to talk to. I feel like an idiot. But as long as there's people talking, like I probably would have ended it a couple hours ago, but people are still talking to me. So they haven't said, "Leather, you suck, go away." You know. But I mean, which is not to say that it's always sunshine and roses on social media, but I really wanted to do tonight's live stream because I really wanted to talk to people because I'm still really, uh, I feel like I really feel like the floor has been pulled out from under me with Charlie's murder. I just did not see that coming. Even though I know how bad I felt watching live what happened to Trump. I was watching Fox News Channel was filming a lot of his rallies live when they happened, and I was watching that live, and I was absolutely shocked when I saw him touch his ear and go down. And my mom was in her bedroom watching one of her cowboy movies or something, and I told her, I says, "Mom, Trump just got shot." And one a few times when she actually went and put Fox News on because I asked her to. She does not care for the network or the political persuasion or the man or the party or any of that stuff. And I've been trying to red pill her in the worst way, which maybe I shouldn't, but if I think that she's on the wrong side, I mean, I agree with her on some things, and I think that she also is anti-rampant illegal immigration and stuff. But see, she just thinks Trump's an asshole. She thinks he talks rude, and she thinks he's obnoxious and things. And it's like, but he gets things done. He knows how to negotiate. He knows how to conduct himself so that our foreign leaders don't just think he's a doormat. He has such a stark contrast with his mental acuity versus President Biden. And then when you look at Kamala Harris, I don't know why this was going in and out. And I don't know how much power. Remember, I have this plugged in because I was getting the low battery thing. I'm going to see. I'm going to unplug this. I want to see I have no idea what the power thing is. I'm going to go down the hall. Oh, I know what we can do. I can take this down here. I wonder how far the signal will last. See, this is the little that I take with me. And, you know what I need to do? I need to go to the Mindset store tomorrow because they have a section of kitchen spices, and I need to get some things with garlic in it.
Now, see if we still have. Oh yes, we do. Okay, I'm outside now. See, I'm out. I don't know how far the signal was. Last time I did this, I could cross the street and I still had a signal. Ghetto, baby, ghetto, Atlantic City. Oh. Ghetto. This is the ghetto, baby. Wow, I'm still on. Oh, you know, I think I better go back. People are going to think I'm a hooker or something. And I'm still broadcasting. Oh, what's this? This chocolate? I thought that was chocolate. You see Tropicana in the background? Tropicana. Okay. Maybe I can find it. Oh, I know what I want to do. I don't know. Ooh. I'm still broadcasting. Let me see where cats are buried. Whoa, I'm still broadcasting. See, people, don't be surprised if people yell out rude things from cars. There's a lot of really decrepit people. But this is where 3 of my cats are buried. Okay, and you want to see Cassie, the garden cat? If you're familiar with my videos, you've seen her before, but this cat is painted right there. She was my deaf kitty. Girl could not hear. Is there enough light? Can you see this? The only thing is, when they made this fence, they added the wrought iron, you know, the fixtures, the hinges. They painted it right over her face. And it's like, why would you do that? Of all places to do this. If they would have just moved that, like, four or 5 inches, the hinge would not be over her face. I mean, that was really disrespectful to do that. Isn't the face the most important part of a cat? And if they just had the hinge here instead of over there. Oh, now I hear some, sounds like drunk, aggressive people down that end. But you see the Tropicana in the background, that tall building with all the lights on it? That's the Tropicana Casino. Do you see the pot leaf on the mural? I don't know how good a view I'm giving you. I could see they finally took away, I had a cut crystal glass right next to one of those gnomes. You see where there's a bird bath and there's a gnome on it. And I had this cut crystal glass that I had plastic flowers on. Because plastic flowers, they look good all the time. You could stick them on a grave, and it gives it gives a nice, attractive look without. But you know what I should be doing, since it's getting toward the end of the growing season? I should go over there sometime and start picking some things. Now, usually this time of year there'd be hella tomatoes to pick, but there is only a few people grew tomato plants this year, and part of it is because we have a whole bunch of dog walkers. They've been using this garden. Now, Caesar used to have, he was the big old German Shepherd that used to have a house there, and he was actually a friendly dog. I'm not really a dog person, but I can appreciate people's dogs. If they're nice to me, he's never tried to take a bite out of my crime, okay? And his barking kept people from hopping the fence. We used to have crackheads that would sit on this wall that was over here, and day and night they'd be talking, drinking, doing whatever. And can you imagine living up there and hearing people talking 24/7? I mean, it wasn't right. Well, so what they did was they fenced this off. They did it in such a way so that there are no real places to hang out unless you actually live here. And you could see these are not things, these chairs are not for people that are just coming in from the outside unless they're invited by somebody here. But since he passed away, and when he was here, they would let him use this as a bathroom, and his poop would only get picked up maybe once a week, so you had to be careful where you stepped. And I would notice that sometimes he would go into the garden, like where some lady was growing onions, he was taking a dump there. And it's like, I would not grow food near dog manure, So there was a few reasons why I didn't grow anything out here. Because, I'm sorry, but you can't have germs where you're growing food that you're going to eat. So, but I still will pick mint. The mint always comes up. I used to get things like oregano and sage over there. I still have some sage because you could get that when it's dry, and you could save it for literally years, But I miss being able to get all the fresh basil. And the thing is, aside from that little windowsill view, that's the only place that I can grow anything in my house, because the mice bite the tops off of plants whenever I try to grow anything anywhere. That room that used to be my grow room, I used to think it was my cats that were biting my plants. No, it was the mice the whole time. But yeah, they finally took that glass away. I don't know. I keep on saying I want to go and tend to their grave again, and I have all these flowers that I'm saving in my room that I want to put over there. And where I wanted to put them was, you see, I thought there was something that, it was okay, right behind the bird bath. That was where I was setting a bunch of plastic flowers. Okay, and then I also want, there's no law that says you can't stick a few plastic flowers amongst the real ones. I used to like to stick a whole bunch of flowers right over the grave so that whenever they were mowing the grass, they couldn't disrupt that area. And also, one year, I grew a melon patch. So if you've ever grown melons, they have real big flat leaves, like bigger than a dinner plate. And it's took over a big area, like a giant star-shaped area over there. And of course it kind of interfered with the guy mowing. But the thing about here is they always mow the wildflowers away. You know how some people say that you should wait until May's over to start mowing? As soon as anything comes up, I mean, all those little flowers that the bees need, and there's so many medicinal plants that were growing here, the guy just mowed them away. The purple stinging nettle, the purple dead nettle, rather, grows here. That's medicinal. Clover is medicinal. A lot of things, you know. And I'm thinking, what a damn waste. Oh, you want to see the moon? Okay. I'm gonna. Want to see a desolate street? Caesar's is up there. See? Now you're finally getting to see me in some real light. This is what my hair really looks like. See, my lighting in my house is crappy compared to this, huh? You know, I heard the reason why it's so well lit on the boardwalk near Bally's is because a couple years ago there was a shooting, and ever since then they wanted it to be brightly lit to discourage things like that. Oh, there's the kitty! There were 2 kitties yesterday, and they were crying. And I want them to stay put. I'm saving some meat in the refrigerator just for the cats. I look better inside or outside. Well, which one is it? Is it inside or is it outside? Actually, sometimes I don't feel entirely safe all the time to wear certain things outside that I wear inside, but it depends. But, you know, it depends on where I'm at. You know, it's a kitty. You know, I gotta kind of be careful where I'm at right now. A lot of people come here to buy and sell different things, and yeah, it's an interesting place. Yeah, get tuna. I do have lots of tuna. You know what? I think I'm gonna get some tuna. I'm gonna get some tuna fish. You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. I'm outside. No, I'm not. Oh. Now, a couple months ago, somebody told me these walls look like they're covered in blood. I assure you they're not. As you can see, it's all very clean since I no longer have anybody sleeping here. I don't have a whole bunch of stuff. I have very little stuff. Yes, that is a in my enemy's blood. Is it cold outside? Well, you see that I'm wearing not too much. It's very comfortable. I don't need a jacket or anything. But I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to take a minute here to plug this back in because it has been on low battery anyway. So I'm going to set this down and I'm going to grab a can of tuna and I'm going to get a can of it. Okay. Tuna. It's tuna in water. Now, I prefer for myself, I prefer tuna in oil. But we're not talking about what I want. Now, I'm going to have to do this, but I'm going to have to go back. I'm going to have to come straight back here because I got a low battery warning. I'm down to 14%. So I need to do this. Then I need to leave it down. And I need to... Okay. Hope this cat didn't disappear on me. Where did the kitty go? Where did the cat go? Okay, kitty. No, it's very refreshing. I feel ocean breezes. I'm going to give you the view here. You know what's cool on the other side of this fence is a chicken. There's a family that has a chicken. It must be an egg layer, I'm guessing. You know. My friend whose address I'm using as my mail drop for this channel, he found a chicken in the parking lot of his apartment complex. So apparently Spanish families having chickens is a bit of a thing. I don't know where the kitty is. I don't want to be loud because there's families that are, I'm sure, trying to sleep here, and it must really irritate them all the time to hear people. If somebody's trying to talk to me, I hope they're not. Oh good, I don't see any kitties. You know what, I don't want to put this on these dirty surfaces. That's the thing, is mounting these things. You know, computers are so much easier to set places. You know what? I'm going to go back in there. I'm going to set this on my step. I'm going to open up the tuna can and I'm going to leave it there so that cat can find it. Okay? I don't understand why cats are not around. There. I've got to kind of feel weird just leaving this any old place. You know. I'm gonna get a spoon because I think I'm gonna have to make some room in the container first. So I think I should have a few spoons of that Yeah. Oh crap. Oh man. Damn. You see what I just did? Look, I just stepped on this floor with these stockings. And that means I have the foot of my stocking is dirty. And I can't put that in my shoe. So I need to take this stocking off. Oh. And you know what? I can't very well go out there with one stocking on and one stocking off, or they will think I'm fucking insane. So, where am I gonna put this? Okay. See the problem here? I'm gonna take one off. I'm gonna take the other one off. Let's hear it for the red, white, and blue. Okay, now. This is how I do laundry. I put in soapy basins of water. Oh. Okay, now I gotta put this on the charger soon, so let me. For the time being, I'll put these in here. Now, I'm going to take the lid off of this so kitties don't cut themselves. Another thing I don't understand, when you're live streaming on a cell, why they make you make it wrong ways. That was a little bit of a disappointment. At least on a computer you get to do it in what I think is a much more natural way to show things. Oh, I think I see a kitty. Is that a kitty? There's a kitty. You know what? I want to see if there's a zoom on this. Okay, cat's over there. Oh, you guys, this doesn't have that kind of a camera. I'm sorry. Crap. Hello? You guys? Hello? 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 Can you guys see me? Oh, okay. I don't know if you can hear me or not. The screen's frozen. Kitty, kitty, kitty. Kitty, kitty, kitty. Go eat num nums. Num nums. Eat your num nums. Num nums. Eat your num nums. Eat your num nums. Hey. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see me or not. Hi, you guys. I feel like I touched something. Oh, hi. I guess I will go back to what I try to do. I hit something and that froze things. Okay, I just dropped the cat food off over there. I got as close as I could and the cat started to go away. See the kitty? Okay, there's a guy trying to approach me. I've got to try to ignore. Hello, baby. Better not be trying anything. Better go away. Kitty, kitty. Bye-bye. You see his license plate? He's trying to buy a hooker. Hey, kitty, kitty. Eat your num-nums. Eat your num-nums. Pretty kitty. Okay, I don't want to scare this cat. But you know what? I want to make sure that scumbag goes. Okay. Yeah, that's the thing. I've been followed sometimes. And, you know, when I lived in LA, I'd be coming home from clubs occasionally. I would get things like that too. You that cutie. Oh. I hope the cat's smart enough to realize that I left him food. It feels really delightful. I almost don't want to go in, but obviously I know I have to. Oh, you know what? Just for the hell of it, I don't know how far the signal's gonna go. Yeah, that's exactly what that was. He's gone. Unfortunately, I lost the signal before I got something else to show you. I saw another cat. It may have been the heart-nosed cat. He was in the parking lot of this place, but the signal went out. But this is a cat that was actually friendly with my Garfield, and I was thinking how nice it would be to take them in. And I hadn't seen the heart-nosed cat in a long time. And of course, one thing I learned about when I brought Garfield in is that he had fleas that had fleas that had fleas. And this place got fleas real bad, but we were very lucky that we had a good regular pest control guy, and he did the treatment. There's 3 different treatments for the carpet in the whole house and stuff. So, next time a cat comes into my life, I definitely want to get them treated for fleas before they deposit their lovely fleas everywhere. Satire Life 420, you attracted your message, and I never got to read it. So, you know, I really wish people wouldn't take their messages away when the creator, that I'm guessing is to whom you're directing your comments, we don't get to read things. And if I'm out in the field, sometimes I don't see everything right away, because when I'm outside, I got to deal with, I'm out in public, and I never know if I'm going to be dealing with other human beings who might possibly be up to no good, and so I have to keep my wits about me, and I have to maybe stay away from these unscrupulous individuals as much as possible. You know. So should I pull an all-nighter, or should I actually try to get some sleep? I mean, because that's the thing is, I am naturally very nocturnal, and the thing is, if I go to sleep now, I could still, there's a chance that I will oversleep and I will screw up today. And the thing is, okay, you could say, well, Leathur, do you really need another frock? Do you need another miniskirt? Do you need another dress? Do you need another whatever? Not that I don't get things from my mom, right? But the thing is, I might be able to get some things that she can use. And, you know, it's a way for me to go out and bring resources into the house, you know. And there's not much that we need, you know. If I could meet people and get some employment of different kinds, that would be real nice, for instance. But that hasn't really happened. But I really would like to talk to people about Charlie Kirk, and I would imagine that there would be some people too that I can talk to about that. So, and I've been at this for 4 minutes already. I mean, 4 hours. Can you believe that? I can't imagine. Oh, no, you see, I don't understand. When I was trying to give you a close-up look at the cats, I thought it wasn't letting me do that, and now I realize I did enlarge the screen. Alright, hey guys, I think I'm gonna have to,
just clean my
maybe get some kind of rest or something.
seriously, $19.
So,
Right on top.
but I'm home and I'm safe, and, oh, where's my ashtray?
I love using Chroma Glow. I think you will too.